It's a very complicated day to be a Canadian fan of sports because, on the one hand, you have the Oklahoma City Thunder absolutely curb stomping the Denver Nuggets in somewhat predictable fashion. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Uh, Obviously, if you're Serbian, it kind of sucks because Jokic is out. And there's a lot of people who are out for blood right now saying a lot of crazy stuff about him. But it's also tough to be Canadian today because the Toronto Maple Leafs lost in horrifying fashion. I think the score was 5-1 when I turned it off. I don't know how much worse it got, but it was pretty bad. So, in this episode, which is a call in show, by the way, the link is in the description. If you would like to call in, you want to talk OKC, you want to talk Denver, you want to talk OKC, Minnesota, if you want to talk Indiana Pacers versus New York Knicks, if you want to talk OG versus Pascal, if you want to talk about whether or not the Raptors got fleeced for either one of those guys, if you want to talk draft, this is your time to call in and have a conversation. We'll definitely answer some questions. But overall, the point of this show is defense, depth, and discipline wins. And I'll tie this back to something neuroscience related, but also just I think this game came down to physics. Now, a lot of people who don't know what they're watching are going to say that what kind of an MVP, what kind of an all-time great is Nikola Jokic if you can just stop him with Alex Caruso? Well, you didn't stop him with Alex Caruso. You stopped him with a lot more than Alex Caruso. The Oklahoma City Thunder are probably one of the best. I should be cautious saying the best or whatever, but I think in my lifetime I have seen two defenses that compare to this one. That's the '08 Celtics and the '04 Pistons. And I think, at least in terms of wing defenders, they have them beat. And I don't know how much you rate Chet Holmgren's defensive presence on that back line, but I rate it a lot. So I think we're seeing something that works here. Long wing defenders, off ball wings. This is what wins you games in the playoffs. When things get physical, you need physically imposing, physically gifted players. And I think this ties very well to the Toronto Raptors and the conundrum or somewhat that they find themselves in right now with a whole bunch of mismatched pieces and, a team that won 30 games where they really do have a chance, in my opinion, to reconstruct some of their weaknesses this offseason, including some help in terms of rim protection, some help in terms of some more athletic two-way wings. And I'll be very curious to see what they do. But the first opportunity to make any changes will be the NBA draft. And we'll talk about the draft as well. I want to plug tomorrow's episode ahead of time. We will be having Ersan Demir. You guys loved him the first time he was on. If you remember, he was the guy who was super high on Trey Johnson. And we're going to have a really lively discussion, similar to, but very different from the one that I had with Nick Thomas yesterday. And shout outs to DraftStack. Y'all actually pulled through. I mean, I think DraftStack was at 120 when we shouted them out in terms of subscribers. And today I checked and they were over 200. So big shout outs to Nick and his team and DraftStack. So yes, we almost got them up. We almost doubled their subscriber count, which is awesome. But I hope they keep going. So specifically to talk about this game, I want to share something with you because we were on playback for this game. So if you were with us, you got my entire live reaction. You could have, I don't know if I should have probably plugged this, but you could have watched along with me on YouTube because Player's Choice on YouTube also streams the playback stream. The only difference is you can't watch the game there. So you would just have the audio on one side if you were really interested in what we were talking about. But here's what I said prior to the game. Someone said, please don't say some crazy shit. Do you know me? Thunder by 50. Thunder by 55. Is that crazy enough? It wasn't crazy enough because had they not pulled their starters, that's exactly where that game was actually going. Here's what I said in the middle of the game, and I think this is probably very closely tied to what I want to talk about today as well. So here's what we talked about during the game.
Ain't no way you thought we could buy some minutes with both of them off the floor.
Y'all remember that last stretch of 2 minutes in game 6 where Shea picked up that fourth foul and they went on that crazy run? That turned the entire tide of the game. So you don't know if this 1 minute right here turned the tide of the whole game.
I don't know why would he try that shit. He just tried.
Yeah, because like Shea got a fast break. J-Dub side go through the hoop. You might have just activated one of those guys, man. Basketball is very much a game of inches in that sense.
Oh,
and then you got to Russ. And then you got to Russ play.
Russ wasn't looking. I knew Stronto was about to do that.
And that's not just Russ. That's both of them. Get it together, man.
If there is a momentum meter in this game, it is 98% OKC right now. Boom.
Nice.
Boom.
Aaron Gordon as the last line of defense on one hamstring.
There's your momentum.
You probably
don't like that.
Probably got to play
I'm sorry.
Jordan.
Yeah, y'all got to put Jordan out there. You got to see if he can give you something.
Man,
DeAndre Jordan minutes?
Jokic, get your big ass off the bench.
I mean,
2025? Are you trying to get blown up by 80? Are you trying to get blown out by 80? He proceeded to say that Aaron Gordon had his hamstring issue. And he's like, Aaron Gordon got one hamstring. And I said, I'll take Aaron Gordon over DeAndre Jordan with 0 hamstrings. So that's where we were at. But that is the moment, by the way. Now, I think it's worth noting that prior to this game, if I recall correctly, there were 4 minutes total that the Nuggets had neither Jokic nor Murray in non-blowout games. So that sample size should have told you should never, ever do that again. And they did it again. And they did it in a game 7. And that comes down to gamesmanship, and it comes down to lineup management, and it comes down to an inexperienced coach to some extent. But it also comes down to understanding your personnel. Your offense must sustain against a defense that is this physical. The Thunder, I said it during our live stream, the Thunder find their energy on defense. So if you're going to fuel their defense with turnovers, and the Raptors fans in the audience here should be very familiar with this, because as you'll remember, the Raptors had a really, really hard time holding on to the basketball against this team, and they had a tough time scoring. And so if you don't put together efficient offense, which is to say you don't put the ball in the hoop, and Daryl said, you've been on a streak of great calls recently. Sooner or later, the PC audience is going to have to acknowledge it. Yes, Luka to the Lakers. Yeah. I mean, there was another one that was pretty freaking on point. Yeah, Dallas Cooper flag, Raptors moving down in the draft. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff, but I say a lot of shit. So I mean, I'm wrong a lot too. I mean, I'm saying Carter Bryant to the Raptors. Come on, Malawatch to the Raptors, and watch the Raptors take Noah Senge. I'm actually going to talk about Noah Senge, and if anyone actually wants to talk draft, the one player I really want to hone in on today is Noah Senge, because as I mentioned before, I hadn't done a lot of watching of international prospects, and I did a lot of Noah Senge catch-up scouting. Hang on one second. Sorry, I think the water just went down wrong. Weird. Okay. Now my face is all red. Okay, so point being, I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder are a phenomenal basketball team. They don't have some remarkable offense. I don't think it's the greatest offense. They lack creators on the wing. You take a look at players like Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, sometimes J-Dub, definitely Chet. What is the big criticism of this roster? They don't have enough shot creators, right? Everyone is the catch and shoot guy, some shaky shooters, right? You have like a guy like Lou Dort, who, despite shooting 40%, isn't really respected. So there were some concerns legitimately going into the playoffs. Will their half-court offense actually sustain? And the truth is, basketball is always going to be about buckets. What was that? It was like an old Bill Russell quote, is like, the game will always be about buckets. And so at the end of the day, if you can hold a team to 80, you don't have to score 120 points. The OKC Thunder defense is what creates all of these advantages in transition, etc. And so, you get long athletes, you get switchable defenders, you get good rim protection, and then you hang your hat on that. And then you obviously have, in my opinion, the best isolation scorer in the league in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who pretty much props this whole thing around. But when he's not on the court and he's not going right, you see the whole offense, basically become some sort of game of hot potato. And, when the other team zones up, the really only recourse that the Thunder had was to try to get to the middle of the paint and then throw lobs over Jokic, right? And again, that opportunity really only exists because Jokic is not a great rim protector, right? So if you think about it, going up now against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where Rudy Gobert is a really great rim protector, he might be one of the greatest rim protectors of all time, those lob opportunities are not going to be there. And that's going to be a really, really tough thing. So I have picked the OKC Thunder to win the championship since preseason. Just to be clear, I've had this team all the way through, never wavered, no Boston, nothing. I said it confidently. No team has a chance to beat this team if this team is going right. But I saw a lot of stuff in this series against Denver that really showed me that this team might actually get beat in the next round. So I don't have a prediction for OKC versus Minnesota, but I do want to say it's going to be one hell of a Western Conference Finals. I can't wait. It's like the aura standoff between Shea and Ant, and you can say it's like the best shooting guard in the league versus the young up-and-coming guy who's trying to take his spot. You can say it's the quest to be who's going to be the face of the league, etc. There's a lot of narratives, but it's also two of the best defensive teams in the league. It's also two teams that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, were top 5 in net rating throughout the season. It's also two teams that, frankly, they build themselves on versatile wings and long defenders. And it's two teams that have just been remarkably constructed. When you look at Sam Presti on one hand, and you look at Tim Conley on the other hand, there's no mistake here. These are two of the absolute A1 guys in terms of roster construction. Roster construction is key here. There's like 3 types of general managers in this league, and I'd like to identify them for you. General manager 1, the philosopher, right? This is not necessarily like the best general manager or the worst general manager. They're usually just talked about a lot. So you have your Sam Hinkies. He's a philosopher, right? He has a philosophy. Daryl Morey, philosopher, right? There's just certain types of guys who just buy all in on this one thing that they think works. And it could be youth. It could be losing. It could be, winning at all costs, right? Like when you look at the Sacramento Kings or, the Phoenix Suns under Matt Ishbia and what they've done, when you look at what the Brooklyn Nets did in the mid 2000s, even if you look at the complete haphazard deconstruction of my beloved New York Knicks in the early 2000s, which pretty much, robbed me of any empathy or any New York Knicks fandom that I might have had, apart from my Allen Houston ball signed up there. I mean, Dust Taker, appreciate you chiming in. Please avoid the all caps if you can avoid it. It's just very irritating to me, to my eye, to read all caps. If you want your message to stand out, you can definitely send a super chat. You won't, but I'm just saying, yeah. So my overall point here was that's the philosopher. No, it's all good. It's all good. You're good. So my overall point was that's the philosopher, right? It's just someone who buys into an archetype. Daryl Morey, more threes. We need to get shooters. We need to get whatever. There's like a philosophy on how you want to play, but not necessarily complete understanding of how those pieces are going to fit together. So that's the philosopher, right? You could even argue Masai Ujiri has like elements of philosopher in him, right? When you think about Division 6-9 stuff, right? You just want to put together a whole bunch of long wing defenders. The second type is, I would just say, the grossly incompetent. Like they don't have any vision whatsoever. Like they're not philosophers, they're not architects, they're just nothing. These are just the complete crumb bums of the NBA. I don't think I've ever used the word crumb bum on this, but I don't know what better word to use. There's completely no thought to any, and like the roster construction is just complete bullshit, right? They're signing aging vets, they're chasing the past while chasing the future. They're all over the place, man. The third, and I think the most impressive general manager type is the architect, right? Now, an architect knows that in order for a house to be built, you must lay a foundation. There is like a lot of thought that goes into how the pieces actually fit together. When you look at players like Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace, and even on the deeper roster like Jalen Williams, Jay Will, Usman Jang, Nikola Topic, like this isn't just they haven't just randomly thrown all these pieces against the wall, right? There is a real understanding of what it takes to win on a basketball court, and they try to put these pieces in place to maximize all the pieces together, right? And I believe that Tim Connelly built the Denver Nuggets as a great architect. That's what I believe, right? I believe that the synergy between Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. is what made that team go. I believe that the addition of Aaron Gordon put that shit into hyperdrive. I believe that guys like Bruce Brown and KCP were just optimal fits next to Jokic. I truly believe that this is what it takes to win championships. If you consider Rasheed Wallace getting traded to the Detroit Pistons, it gave them the one thing they didn't have, which was like stable half-court offense, a beastly, mid-post to low-post score. I think that is just how you have to win championships. I think that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like understanding how these pieces all flow together and fit together, even like the New York Knicks, knowing that the Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, like that two-man game would be so hard to stop. Like understanding how these pieces can synergize and help each other. I think for the longest time, if I'm being honest, the Toronto Raptors really didn't have that. It felt like the roster, like the Kem Birch stuff, like just signing Kem Birch, Gary Trent Jr. And it's just like, I get that you're trying to acquire a whole bunch of these pieces, and that's your philosophy. You want to buy low on things and sell high. And that's the philosopher in Masai, right? Over the last couple of years, as you've had a sort of stable anchor of what you're actually building around, which is Scotty Barnes, there seems to be a shift in philosophy to like moving away from philosopher and moving more towards architecture, right? Where you're trying to, once again, reestablish your culture. Once again, try to understand how your star player wants to play, and then putting the pieces slowly, putting those pieces around him that are actually going to help him succeed on the basketball court, and pieces that naturally synergize well with him. If you notice, like there's been a huge prioritization towards shooting. Brandon Ingram, really good shooter. Jacoby Walter, in theory, really good shooter. Jameson Battle, Grady Dick, et cetera, et cetera. So there is like a clear plan in place on how you want to play basketball. Number one, you want to have good decision makers in the middle of the court. Why? Because it shreds zone defenses, right? It's the most important place on the court is right there at the nail, right? And Justin T says, who does Pensacola think the Raps will draft at 9th? Terry Cullen saying no sound. There's definitely sound. If there wasn't sound, that means the 118 people here have just been reading my lips the entire time, which is even more impressive than anything else. But the more likely solution is probably to turn up your volume. Hang on one second. King Jabby saying Toronto should trade for OKC Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins is dope. But Aaron Wiggins struggles with the shot creation stuff too, man. Like, I mean, again, there seems to be like a contingent in Raptors fans that just think the Raptors must find shot creation because this is one thing that they don't have. They don't have a guy who can break down his man off the dribble consistently, get past his man. I get it. I get what you're saying. But the architecture says something else altogether. We'll get into that after. Let me talk about this. Let's just organize this very slowly into number one. Let's talk about the Western Conference, Eastern Conference preview. What's happened so far, what these teams are doing right, what maybe the teams that went against them did wrong, in my opinion. From a roster construction perspective, from a play style perspective, coaching perspective, whatever. We haven't really had a lot of time to talk about the playoffs, so that this be a good opportunity. Number two, let's talk about the Raptors, the state of the Raptors. And then number three, we'll talk about the draft. For sure. We will talk about the draft. We'll talk about what I saw in Noah Senge. And we will definitely talk about maybe a more coherent way to understand prospects and maybe break down prospects, look at film. Because I see a lot of people, in my mentions and online that are saying like, it's got to be Rasheer, it's got to be Noah, it's got to be this guy, it's got to be that guy. And it's just like trying to understand how the Raptors want to play. There is probably a right answer to who it's got to be. And I don't think it's the answer that you think. Okay, starting the East, the Knicks versus the Pacers. This is going to be a very interesting series, and it really does come down to no one size fits all. Because, in my opinion, the Indiana Pacers are super deep. They can go 9 to 10 deep without completely cratering their roster. This is not the Denver Nuggets or the New York Knicks, who pretty much just fall apart whenever they go to a lineup of all bench guys or whatever. They're deep and they're really well constructed. And their general manager, Kevin Pritchard, is truly, in my opinion, one of the better architects in the league. He's awesome. Known Kevin for a long time. So, gosh, my throat is going nuts. SP said, can OG lock down Pascal? Yeah, he's pretty much the optimal matchup for sure. Johnny Davis said, I got Pacers in 6. Calling it now. Pacers in 6, OKC in 5. OKC in 5 would be more surprising than Pacers in 6, I'll tell you that. Young Lightskin saying, hold on, are you guys telling me defense wins championships? I think we might have just found Nico Harrison's burner. Young Lightskin, you are officially Nico Harrison from now on. And if you are Nico Harrison, then I need to understand some things about why you traded Luka and whether or not you made a deal with the devil for Cooper Flag. SP said Shea versus Nikhil in the West. Yeah, that could be interesting. Pascal about to have the worst series. No idea, man. So I think what the Knicks did right, and again, there was a lot of intel or a lot of analysis from the regular season saying, you know, Jason Tatum does really well against the Knicks. Knicks are not gonna, they have no chance. And I think the first thing we got to factor in is injuries. I'm sorry to talk about it, but it's true. The Celtics were not healthy. Sam Hauser was out. He is one of their top 8 guys. That matters to me. We found out that Jaylen Brown has been playing through a pretty severe injury the entire time. That matters. And it probably contributed to his awful performance through most of the games, with the exception of game 5. Was it game 5? Yeah, it was game 5. Game 5, he was great, but all the other games he was pretty pedestrian. I think he had 8 turnovers in the first 2 games. He went 1 for 10 from 3 in that first game against New York. So, you know, I don't think the Celtics played up to their capabilities. Obviously, whatever the hell is going on with Kristaps Porzingis probably could not have been foreseen, but injury has always been an issue with that guy, for sure. You know, durability, you got to factor that in when you're building out your roster. I really do like some of their depth pieces. Luke Cornett, you know, really showed up big in that game that they won. I think Xavier Tillman is an NBA player, so that's a step up. I think J.D. Davidson, weirdly enough, you know, if he got some minutes, he could be decent too. So they do have some pieces on their bench. It's just, unfortunately, the way they play, playing non-shooters, too many non-shooters kind of craters their entire system. So, you know, unfortunately, when Jason Tatum went out, they rallied for one game, but it all fell apart. So I do think it's fair to say that the Knicks have had an easier run. Actually, no, the Pacers have had a pretty damn easy run, right? The Pacers also got very lucky with injuries, right? Against the Cavaliers, there were some injuries. Darius Garland was not himself for the entire series. Evan Mobley had that issue. So again, you'll forgive me for saying this, but like, injuries are a part of life. Injuries are a part of basketball. And the truth is that, you know, the healthier team, it just comes down to luck. It comes down to luck, right? I mean, how many times could we say, you know, if this guy wasn't injured, whatever, it would have changed the series? Well, it might have, but you can't go that way. Like, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Denver fans right now who think they probably would have won this series if Aaron Gordon is healthy today. If Michael Porter Jr. doesn't play like ass and, you know, isn't playing with one shoulder. I hear you on that, but you're a fundamentally different team. Maybe you don't get that Julian Strawther performance that those guys are rocking. And let's just not even be crazy, and let's not pretend that Michael Porter Jr. has not been perfectly healthy and totally disappeared for an entire series before, because I've seen it happen. So you don't know that. right? And I don't know that. And let's just say if Chet Holmgren doesn't go to the line and miss 2 free throws in a game that they had pretty much won, if they don't do the whole bullshit foul stuff that lets Jokic on the court, maybe they win this game. Maybe they win this series in 5 instead of having to drag it out to 7. One thing is for sure. The Minnesota Timberwolves took care of business very early, and they are walking into OKC as the healthier team. Not I want to say the healthier team. They're definitely the more well-rested team. Will Rust play a part in game 1? I don't know. If Rust will play a part in game 1, that probably favors New York in game 1 over Indiana. But if fatigue and the wear and tear of playing a super physical series and playing your starters into the ground is going to factor, then Indiana should be the healthier team. And frankly, when you get into the dog days of game 6, game 7, your endurance, your mental fitness, and all that stuff is going to be tested. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both series go the distance. I really wouldn't. My gut is telling me Indiana prevails. Sorry to say. I don't trust Karl-Anthony Towns in big minutes. I do trust Jalen Brunson, though. I got to tell you, who is the best player in this series? It's very easy for me to argue that Jalen Brunson's a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know. That's really hard to say. I mean, in one sense, the Pacers are succeeding exactly how they say you can never succeed in the playoffs, which is with the transition offense, right? They run you off the court. But it's not just transition. Their half-court offense is pretty decent too, right? I mean, they have 4 or 5 ball handlers at all times. I think Andrew Nembhard might be the most underrated player in the league consistently. I think that dude is amazing. I think Aaron Nesmith might be right up there with him. I hardly ever hear people talk about Nesmith, but he fully won them games. So Nesmith is awesome, man. Like, I mean, they have that dog and they have the personnel to spread you out. They have a lot of the same qualities that make the Boston Celtics so good. They can literally play 5 out. And with Halliburton in the middle, making all those great decisions, I certainly don't think that it's going to be easy for the Knicks. What's working for the Knicks? I think their combination of OG and Mitchell Robinson, I think specifically that combination, can probably take out Pascal Siakam from this series. I think that's going to make it really tough, right? How much can be done on the other end by Nesmith and Nembhard in terms of slowing down Brunson? I think that'll also be it. You have 2 of the most clutch guards in the league, in my opinion, in Brunson and Nembhard on the other side. Halliburton also proved himself to be quite clutch. So we could get some legendary performances here. I'm not sure which way I'm leaning, but right now my gut says Indiana in 6 or Indiana in 7. Just something. I feel like game 1 is going to tell me a lot because I have a feeling Indiana is going to come for blood in game 1. I think they're going to run so fast, and the pace at which they play, it does wear you down. It really does, right? I think that's the other variable here. I do trust Rick Carlisle more than I trust Tom Thibodeau. I do too. I think Rick is one of the best coaches in the league, and I rarely ever hear him mentioned as a top 5 coach, but he should be up there for sure. On the Western side, as I said, you're going to have the matchup of like just massive teams, right, with huge defenders. I wonder how effective Mike Conley is going to be. You know, are they going to pick on him a little bit defensively? My big concern, if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, is how sped up is the OKC defense going to make my 2 lead decision makers, which is Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, right? When I think about Julius Randle, I think about, you know, all those disappointing runs or a couple of disappointing runs with New York, but he's been phenomenal. I could argue he was their best player in the last series. He's been great in terms of playmaking, decision-making, scoring, and he is exactly like what I said Rasheed Wallace was for the Detroit Pistons in terms of stable half-court offense. When you are struggling to score, having a guy like that you could just put it down, and then, you know, if, I don't know, he's got Lou Dort on him, I'm curious to see what that matchup looks like. If he's got Chet on him, I'm also curious to see what that matchup looks like. I mean, he might break Chet in half, you know? But the Chet iHeart tandem, I think, could be interesting. I think Naz Reid could be a huge, huge swing factor in this series. I think he could be the biggest swing factor. It'd be very interesting to see how much Nickeil Alexander and Dante DiVincenzo contribute off the bench, because I do think like the bench of the, as much as I made the argument that OKC is the deepest team in terms of like how many amazing defenders they can bring out the bench and how versatile they are, I do think Dante and, you know, having Dante and Nickeil and Nas coming off the bench, like that is just an embarrassment of riches. Like those are 3 starters, you know, on a lot of teams, good teams, coming off your bench. And yes, you know, a lot of people are going to say the series is going to come down between SGA versus Anthony Edwards. I really don't think it is. I think it's going to come down to the other guys. I think it's going to come down to just how many turnovers they're going to force on Rudy Gobert. You know, how many times are they going to, you know, force Julius Randle to get sped up and make really bad decisions. I think, you know, what I mentioned earlier about a lot of people online sort of trolling Nikola Jokic and saying like, how could Alex Caruso, a 6'5" guard, stop you? And it's just like, yo, you're not even watching. Like, you're not even trying to understand what's going on. Yeah, Alex Caruso is a hell of a guard, but that's not the point. He had so many different looks. They threw everything at him, you know, and I think this is something that Darko Rajakovic, Raptors head coach Darko Rajakovic, has talked about too. Is like with great scorers, all you want to do is force them out of their comfort zone, right? I watched Nikola Jokic completely annihilate Rudy Gobert in last year's playoffs. Like we watched that. I watched that together. We watched that together, right? Like I didn't just dream that shit. It happened, right? You put a big on him, I think you're sort of playing into his hands, right? You need to stop him like with a team. You need to stop him with 3 guys. So you need somebody to pressure him, you know, just contain him and get him to catch the ball in maybe a different situation. You need someone to sort of trail his eyes and cut off his passing angles. And then you need somebody there to clean it up, right? You need someone back there to just make the shot really hard. And you're just cutting him off 3 ways. And his natural instinct is to try to find the open man. But the Thunder consistently leave the right open man all the time, right? They're going to leave Russell Westbrook wide open. I don't think they're going to have as many weak shooters to pick on with, and that's why I said, like, it's such a cheat code to bring 3 guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and, you know, Nickeil and Nas and like those guys, Dante, off the bench, because those aren't guys that you can just leave, right? So they're going to have to pick their poison. Obviously, they're going to let Rudy Gobert do whatever the hell he wants. They're going to gang up on, you know, Julius Randle. They're going to pack the paint and make life very, very difficult for Anthony Edwards. They're going to try to speed up his decision-making. They're going to blitz him. They're going to do crazy shit. So I think this is just going to be a chess match of a series. If I'm telling you as a basketball fan, I'm far, far, far more interested in seeing what happens in the West than the East. And honestly, I do want to say, if the Thunder come out of the West, I got them winning against either team. If the Minnesota Timberwolves come out of the West, I got them beating either team. The NBA champion is going to be from the Western Conference, in my opinion. If it is not from the Western Conference, it's because the Indiana Pacers got on a legendary run and made probably like the most improbable championship run ever. There are a whole bunch of Canadians, by the way, in the NBA Finals. Nickeil, obviously. Shea, obviously. Lou Dort, obviously. It's really cool, right? It's really cool. Andrew Nemhard, right? There's a lot. I think there's six total. The Knicks don't have one. We make OG an honorary Canadian. That could be cool. So it's going to be fun. In terms of my finals predictions, like, as I said, whoever comes out of the West is winning it. Since I currently don't know who am I picking in the West? My gut says OKC in 6. But there's a part of me that's thinking Minnesota in 7, man. And I can't tell you if for sure my opinion is being tainted by the fact that almost every time that I ran a 2K sim of this season, it ended with Minnesota winning the championship over New York, Indiana, or Boston. Every time. I couldn't, I didn't know what to make of it. They always beat OKC. They always beat Denver. Whoever they matched up with, they always beat them. So it's really weird. 2K seems to think, you know, Minnesota is going to win this. Secretly, I'm hoping I'm not secretly. I'm saying it on a live stream. I'm definitely rooting for OKC. 100% I'm rooting for OKC. I want the best Canadian player ever to win a Finals MVP. I want the best Canadian. I want the best Canadian player to win. Obviously, I do. Johnny Davis said, "Come on, 2K, worst game company." Sure, we haven't changed the game in like 20 years. Okay, now we're past that. Noah Senge. We talk about draft. We talk about Noah Senge. So, hearing a lot of people talking about Noah. Noah had a brilliant showing last year. I'll show y'all something. I don't think I'm going to get a copyright or anything for this, but maybe if I slow this down and I mute it. So, to anyone who doesn't know, Noah actually played against the Portland Trailblazers last year in the preseason, and the results were pretty great. As a 17-year-old, he put up 20 points, right? Now, I've often compared him to Pascal Siakam, right? That's interesting. But to do this as a 17-year-old, first of all, in a pro league in Germany was impressive enough. But look at that defensive play right there, right? Now, again, I'm hearing a lot of people say Giannis. I don't see Giannis, but there is a player that I do see, and I wonder if his point of attack defense could improve a little bit if he can get there. And that player is actually Tayshaun Prince. Now, I was a really big fan of Tayshaun Prince in college. Really, at the time when he was entering the draft, I really believed that the Raptors should draft him. And then, of course, he had that legend-making series against Tracy McGrady where he pretty much shut down T-Mac. And I see a lot of Tracy McGrady in him. He's bigger. There's also bits and pieces of Sean Marion, although not really sure he's quite like the power athlete. I was also surprised with some of his full-court reads. Like, he's not a great passer by any means. I'm not suggesting he's like a point forward, but he can make basic reads. His handle probably needs a lot of work. Not for a guy who's 6'10", but for a guy who is ever hoping to create his own shot. Like, as you're seeing, like, he's making basic reads. He's probably one of the best transition prospects I've seen in a really long time, which makes me also think that maybe the floor on him is something close to like a less vertically poppy Obi Toppin. He can shoot it just well enough, right? Like, he's decent. He's definitely a decent player. Decent prospect. Would I take him over some of the other names that are on the board? I don't know. I dug into him a lot more. I listened to his interviews. He did some interviews with German TV. Listened to that. There's some French interviews on him. Listened to those. Tried to get some idea about his relationship with his brother, what makes him tick, what got him into basketball, what might be the swing factor that makes him fail at the next level. Did you say he's 3 days older than Flag? I thought he was younger. Didn't they say he was the youngest player in this draft? Nice one saying Noah is hella skinny. Yes, he is. There's also another Noah that is balling out right now, and that's Noah Penda. Have to do more catch-up scouting on him tonight. So that's going to be really fun. Nice one saying 6'10", 200 pounds. I think it kind of depends on if you see him as a 4 or a 3. And I think the Raptors would more or less see him as a really big 3, as opposed to a guy that you expect to play at 4. Now, again, what I say about the architecture stuff, right? If you want to think about defensively constructing a roster that is really hard to pass against, really hard to score against, really good at recovery, really good at zoning up, Noah Senge could be like a cheat code for the Raptors with their already in place wings, right? He's a lot of strengths as a defender that I was noticing. So he has like really fluid hips. So he's actually pretty good at navigating screens. For a big player who's 6'10" with like a 7-foot wingspan, he might be one of the better prospects that I've ever seen at 18 navigating screens. He's not great in space, but that's technique. he has really decent lateral quickness. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I think sometimes he's just, I think it's correctable is what I'm saying. Like, I think sometimes he just picks up too high and then he gets blown by. So that's something that I was noticing. His shooting form is decent. It's not great, but it's not broken. It's not a broken jumper. It's going in, and it's going in a lot lately. So I think there's a chance, you know, like when you think about what the Raptors are trying to do, what are you trying to do? Number one, you're trying to suffocate, right? 3 days older, FA says. December 18th versus December 21st. Okay, got you. I mean, either case, both players will be 18. This is the most number of players who will be 18 on draft night, most eligible draft players since 2004, which was when high schoolers were still allowed. If you'll remember, that's the last year. It was 2004 or 2005, last year that high schoolers were allowed? I think it was 2005 was the last year high schoolers were allowed. Anyways, it hasn't happened since. We haven't seen this many 18-year-olds, and honestly, I'm not used to it because, again, like when I was growing up, it was pretty common for 17 and 18-year-olds to be entering the draft. We all saw J.R. Smith came out of high school, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady. There's a lot, but recently it feels like most draft prospects are 19, 20, 21. So having a whole bunch of 18-year-olds is really weird because neither can they drink in Canada. They also can't drink in the States. It's really weird. Noah or Fleming, Pen? It's a really good question. So, yeah, I have to think about my thoughts. So one thing I was doing today was constructing a draft profile, and yeah, there you go, 2005. Yeah, Andrew Bynum was, I think, 17 or 18 years old at the draft. So one thing I was doing was trying to construct like a scoring system for every prospect, so that when I go through my big board, I can actually show you the scores and say, this is what the player ranks out as. And, you know, it could be movement shooting upside, role scalability, all these things. So I'm trying to figure out what those 10 variables that I really care about are going to be. It's not a be all end all, but it's a really simple way to grade a prospect out of 100. So that's what I'm working on with every prospect. And it's a little bit hard, you know. I actually want to show y'all something. Hang on one sec. I went back and I revisited my big board from last year. Hang on one sec. I'll show you what it became. Also, I asked Twitter, which is you guys, provided Kaman is off the board, who do you want at number 9? If someone else, write it down below. And 54% of you said Carter Bryant. 25.7% of you said Jeremiah Fears. 6.5% of you said Rasheer Fleming. And 14% of you said Noah Senge. Interesting. I'm curious to know why, obviously. Also, shout outs to James Barlow. This is his mock draft. He has Cooper at number 1, Dylan Harper number 2, Ace Bailey, Kaman Malawach going all the way up to 4, Trey Johnson, Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears. He has VJ Edgecombe falling to 8, which point I'm going to be punching air because that would suck to miss out on him by 1. And he has the Raptors drafting Noah Senge at 9, over Con Knipple, over Cedric Howard, over Rasheer Fleming, over Colin Murray Boyles, over Kaspars, and yes, over Carter Bryant and Yegor Demon and Thomas Sorber as well. It's an interesting big board for him. But hang on, I just want to show you my big board from last year. So this was my big board from last year, along with my own grades for whether or not I would have those players where I had them on draft night. So this was a little bit shocking to see because I had totally wiped it out of my memory that I had Donovan Clingan this high and Zach Edey this low. I really thought by draft night I had gotten Zach Edey up to like the top 20 at least. I wasn't notoriously high on him. I infamously said early in the cycle that I don't think he should be a first round pick. But nevertheless, this is my big board from last year. I had Risache, Clingan, Castle, Topic, Buzelis, and I'm very happy that I had Matas Buzelis 5th because obviously 10 teams did not. Reed Shepard at number 6, Alex Sarr at number 7, Ron Holland number 8, Cody Williams at number 9. Lord, I wish I could have that one back. I also want to tell you the Cody Williams thing is actually what scares me off from certain prospects in this class, because I see a lot of Cody Williams in certain players. I've always been saying that I've had EMC number 11 for some reason. I found out actually on my final board, I had him number 10. Okay. Then I had Devin Carter at 11. After watching him at the pro level, I definitely would move him down a lot. Not a lot, but like I wouldn't have him 11. Dalton Connect at 12. Tijan Salon at number 13. I'm also proud of that Tijan Salon one. He has a lot of potential. Seeing him live was really interesting. He's huge. But yeah, I didn't understand the rationale of picking a prospect that raw at number 6, and he has a lot of holes. So he might end up becoming the best player in this draft class, but it won't be for years. Jared McCain at 14 feels insane now, but it is higher than he actually went, which is 16. Bub Carrington at 15, which is a pick lower than he went. Jacoby at 16, which is 3 picks higher than he went. Pacom Dadier at 17. I have no idea what I saw, but we haven't seen very much of him this year, so the jury is still out on that. I had Jonathan Mobo at 18, which is surprising to me, but shout out to me. Deron Holmes at 19, who didn't play this year. Tristan Da Silva at 20. Rob Dillingham at 21. Honestly, I don't know why I put an X there, because Rob Dillingham hasn't really proved anything, but in the games he did play, it makes me think that I would probably move him up to like the mid-teens. Tyler Kolek at 22. Kalel Ware at 23. That's a miss. Oh, that is a fucking miss if there ever was one. If I could do this again, Kalel Ware is going top 8. Isaiah Collier at 24. I think, he's perfectly fine where he was. Johnny Furphy at 25. That's exactly where I would still put him today. I know he's very young, and the Indiana Pacers, I think they'll develop him into a reasonable role player at some point. Zach Edey was 4th in rookie voting. There's no chance in hell that he should go 26th. But I also don't think he should have gone top 10. I really do think he was like a mid-first type of guy, not a late first. McCuller at 27. Keyshawn George at 28. That sucks, man. If I could do this again, I would put Keyshawn George top 15. He was really impressive this year. Ryan Dunn at 29. Probably I'd move him up to like early 20s instead of late 20s. Kyle Filipowski at 30. Same story. Baylor Shireman at 31. Pretty much exactly where he should be. AJ Mitchell at 32. Smith at 33. Adem Bona at 34. Jurisic at 35. And, Jones at 36. So, yeah, I didn't have Jamal Shed in my top 36. I didn't have Jamison Battle. I didn't have Ulrich. I would put Ulrich, honestly, I put Ulrich top 20. That might be my Raptors homerism, but Ulrich is a hell of a prospect. Nah, I think maybe I need to pump the brakes on the Ulrich stuff, but I've been so impressed with his development this year and just where he's gone from point A to point B and point B to point C and just seeing that progression. So maybe we would have actually seen some crazy, crazy games had he been able to play down the stretch. That's sort of the big regret that I have, because I wouldn't put it past this guy to pick up 6 blocks in an NBA game and set this fan base on fire, Would you trade Mobo for Carter Bryant right now? Yeah, of course. Not stupid, of course. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't? Geez. Yeah, look, I love Jonathan Mobo. I love all the rookies, that we drafted. There's a lot of them that should and would be traded immediately for a top 10 pick in this draft. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, looking back at this board, it makes me think, okay, it's pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad to be this wrong about this many players, especially players like Edey and Keyshawn George, especially Kalel Ware. I think I don't want to say it's unforgivable, but these were players that I was way lower on than the consensus. And, these were just kind of hot takes that just did not mature well, right? So I don't know why I put an X next to Reed Shepherd. I feel like he would still go top 10 in a redraft. It's just tough to assess. Maybe we'll look back on this a few years from now. I do think Alex Sarr probably deserves a little bit more grace from me. That being said, sometimes it's worth thinking about where would the prospects in this year's draft go in last year's draft. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. More importantly, do I think that Noah Senge is actually a better prospect than Alex Sarr and Zachary Risochet? Is there a world in which he's a better player than both those players? I really do think there is a world that he's a better player than those players. And that kind of makes, that might sound crazy because those guys went 1 and 2 in last year's draft, and Noah Senge might not go top 13 in this year's draft. So I think that's more a testament to how weak last year's draft was at the very top. But I do think Noah Senge was a top 5 pick in last year's draft. So again, you try to project as you go forward. Where does this guy go in last year's draft? Where would this guy go in next year's draft? Because Noah is damn young, right? So Noah's 18. If he waits a year, he's still a very young prospect coming out next year. He has another year with next year. Maybe he puts on a little bit of weight, a little bit more strength, gets a little bit better because he's gotten better throughout the year. He definitely got better last year as well. Definitely got yet better the year before. So is this guy just on a trajectory where he's going to show off like top 6, top 7 type of potential? Daryl said, in fairness, Ware did have legit heart and motor questions before the draft. You couldn't have known he'd go to Miami and put all those issues behind him. I mean, honestly, man, like, I mean, a lot of people like have been telling me all year, hey, you were wrong about Khalil Ware, you were wrong about Khalil Ware, because I mean, I was very, very loud about being wrong, right? So it's not inconceivable that we go 3-4 years from now and all the work ethic issues are back, right? Nice One said, bro, why do I feel like Masai is going to take Queen? I wouldn't rule it out. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I don't think it's impossible, right? So, hang on one second. So yesterday I did a 2K sim of this off season, and I'm just going to kind of put it in the background so y'all can see what I did. And I'm going to speed it up by a little bit so that it's just a little bit faster. But anyways, to the side is what I'm doing. Okay. So this is just, these are moves that I'm willing to make. And one of the moves that I'm definitely willing to make is I'm willing to trade a little bit of my depth for maybe a team that is looking to maybe not park. Because I mean, there are some teams that are very depth deprived, but they're in a championship window. Could offering them a player like, I don't know, Ochai Agbaji for a first round pick actually makes sense, given that Ochai is probably better than whoever that pick is going to be? I don't know, you know? So that's something that I explored, and apparently 2K let me do that. So I traded Ochai for the 17th overall pick and tried to trade AJ Lawson and Leonard Miller for, and I rejected any trade that was too unrealistic. So if somebody, I don't know, one trade the computer kept offering me was Devin Booker for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, and I always ignored that trade because I'm like, that's not realistic. It's never going to happen. But I tried to stick to reality as much as I could, and I explored the options, like what was actually available, like RJ Barrett. Like, am I trading him for Kyle Kuzma and AJ Green? No, but the Bucks would. The Bucks would love that trade, you know. So yeah, and also don't know why the 2K Knicks were so insistent on trying to trade OG. I just didn't understand that. But anyway, playing out that roster got me thinking about this draft in general. Nice One saying, holy Kuzma. Yeah. FA said, I think we're picking one of Carter, Noah, Fleming, and Malawach. How would you rank those players? I mean, look, the entire draft cycle so far, we have just been very, very gung-ho on the idea of it's going to be come on, right? We want come on. And then we started to fall down the draft a little bit. He had a really tough game to close out his college season. And so, you know, it felt like, okay, maybe it's not going to be come on, but maybe it'll be somebody else. I genuinely think that we get like really, really zeroed in on a prospect and we start viewing them like fans. We become cheerleaders. We want them to do well. We want to be right, etc. I'm willing to bet that nobody is going to be more than 60% right about this draft. That draft scorecard that I showed you, I was like 40% right about that one. So Lightskin said Carter, Malawach. I don't know how I feel about the other two. Josh said Malawach, Carter, Noah, and Fleming. So I understand that a lot of people are a little bit lower on Rasheer. Does that have anything to do with the fact that he's a little bit older? One of the criteria that I was looking at in the I just want to stick back on Noah. So what I really liked about him was that I felt like he was just this insanely high motor player, number one. And number two, despite being probably the most physically weak player on the court, he never felt completely outmatched. Like, sure, he gets bumped off his spot. He's not great at finishing in the half court on drives. And, you know, if he ever puts the ball on the floor, it's probably going to be a turnover or it's going to be a brick. Like, he's not like for himself. So he's not necessarily an advantage generator on any level right now. He's definitely, though, like a really cool advantage extender. Like, he's going to sprint down the court. He's going to be in the gaps. He's going to poke balls away. He doesn't have some monster wingspan, but, you know, he's about 6'10", 6'10 and a half, and he has like a 7-foot wingspan. So, you know, as he broadens out, his shoulders are really narrow. It's awkward. Like, he has very slender man type of build, but he has game. Like, he has legit game. You know, I don't know if it's going to be self-creation at any level, but he seems very interested in getting better, right? And he's not shy. Like, if you give him a shot, he'll take the shot. You know, he'll attack the rim without a plan. He'll throw it up at the backboard. He does get himself kind of caught in no man's land far too often, picks up his dribble a little bit too often, sometimes misses the open guy, whatever. I don't know. This is the draft as it played out for 2K. Cooper Flag. Justin said Noah has a 7'4" wingspan. He does not. I don't know if 2K thinks he has a 7'4" wingspan. He definitely does not. He does not. So this is how 2K is playing out this draft, and the Philadelphia 76ers blew my mind here by taking Colin Murray-Boyles at number 3, which was crazy, which dropped Ace Bailey to number 4, VJ Edgecombe to number 5, Jeremiah Fierce to number 6, Trey Johnson at number 7, and unfortunately, Brooklyn trades the pick to the Knicks, and the Knicks take Carter Bryant at number 8. Now, cool thing is this actually meant that the Raptors do get their guy. They get Kaman Malawach at number 9. So that was pretty cool. And that's actually exactly how this could break down. I mean, someone could reach, maybe, I don't know who's going to reach, but someone could definitely reach. By the way, prior to, I don't know if y'all caught it when I was playing it out, but I had made a whole bunch of trades for extra picks in this draft. Traded away Ochai, traded away some future flexibility, etc. So we do have pick number 17. Very curious who's going to be there. Jamal Murray said, you should have let Auto Sim pick the Raptors. Are you crazy? Why would I do that? Now, let me pause this video here and just consider the options for 1 second. Who would you guys actually pick here? For some people, you're going to say, well, it's obviously Rasheer Fleming, right? Could you make a case for Jace Richardson here? I can't make a case for Ace Newell, but could you make a case for Noah Penda here? Yeah. I think me at 5 a.m. picked Noah Penda here, unfortunately. Yeah, I picked Noah Penda. Tyson Budd saying Traore. Yo, the OKC Thunder cooked the shit out of this draft. They got some really serviceable pieces. Janai Broom, Rasheer Fleming goes to Indiana. That is a crazy good fit. Hugo Gonzalez goes to a place I don't think he'd ever go. I think they probably would have picked Maxime Renault fits perfectly. Ryan Cockburner is the perfect fit. This is going really well. This is going really well so far. Now, I have another pick right here. And I have some options. Young Lightskin said, oh my God, I really like Rasheer in Indy. I do too. I think Rasheer Fleming in Indiana would be absolutely amazing. I also think Noah Senge could be really cool. So I got Nick Clifford and I got Noah Penda. And what am I going to try to do? Obviously, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try to figure out a way to trade both players for the player that I really want, which is, you guessed it, Carter Bryant. They're going to reject me a lot. Asking for Kaman Malawach is fucking insane, but my goal here is to leave this draft with both Carter and Kaman, basically. I'm offering them whatever it takes at this point. I'm willing to take back Pacom Dadier, whatever. I don't want to give up my 2026 first round pick or my 2027 first round pick. I'm just trying to make this work without him. I also don't want to give up Grady. I'm trying to make it work with second round picks. They're not biting. They're asking for a top 3 protected 2026, adding Tyler Kolek. I'm thinking about it. I do have the 3rd pick in the second round because I moved up from 9 to 3. So by the way, in this iteration of 2K, LeBron has retired. Now, I thought about doing this, but I'm like, that's so unrealistic. There's no way in hell the Knicks would actually give you Carter, their number 8 overall pick for Jonathan Mobo and Jamal Shed. Like, that's insane. So I just rejected that trade. Don't think I wouldn't have done that trade in real life. Yes, I would have done that trade, but I don't think the real life Knicks would have done that trade. I've got some bad news. One of our beloved rookies is going to go to the Knicks in this next trade. Yeah. Anyways, as I try to figure that out, I don't know, man. Like, I think draft night, honestly, as much as I believe, give me a W if any of y'all ever played Lightning Roulette on any capacity. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, if you have played it, do you know how it works? Right? I think the draft is a lot like Lightning Roulette or Mega Roulette or whatever. It's like that roulette where there's like random multipliers added on specific numbers, and if you hit that number, I think that's a lot like what the draft is like. You know, I can't tell you that Noah Penda is not going to be like a first team All NBA guy. I can't tell you that, you know, years from now we look back at this draft and the best player isn't like Nolan Traore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a sneaky chance it could happen. It's so freaking unlikely, but like, you're just dealing in probabilities here. It's 100% just probabilities, right? FA saying not trading 2026 pick for anything except top. For anything? Bro, come on now. For anything? I don't know. Entertainer clip saying, Penn, I'm not sure how valid the report was, but I did see something about Masai helping come on with his visa situation as a promise that he will try to get teams not to draft him. Is that possible? The Raptors would already have to be super high on him, number one. And I have to study his visa situation a little bit more in depth, man. FA said, Kaman has a Ugandan passport, so he is good. So then why does he have a visa issue? Okay, unfortunately, set your sights to shocked. I have to trade Jamal Shed, guys. Sorry. Had to make it happen. They didn't like it, so they want Leonard Miller for Tyler Kolek as well. I agree to that. I had no intention of keeping Leonard Miller on the roster anyway. I measure out. I say, okay, cool. So we got Carter Bryant. Unfortunately, it cost us Jamal Shed plus Neek Clifford plus Noah Penda, but whatever. Our roster construction is very fucked up right now. We have no point guards. Lightskin said, I really like Shed. I really like him too. In almost every simulation, I always keep him and Jacoby and Mobo and Ulrich. I've never traded Ulrich. That's the one player. Him and Jacoby, I never trade those guys. Mobo has been traded in one simulation. Shed just got traded. Shed's been traded a couple of times, actually. I'm not going to lie. But, yeah. I think I'm also going to do this deal. Yeah, why not, man? Jalen Tyson plus Dean Wade. Come on. Do that deal. 100% of the time, do that deal. And this deal is only being done because they need cap relief. Nice one said Quickly and Kolek were screwed. I don't think Quickly is staying put for long in 2K Rob's simulation. Hanson Yang. Nolan Traore falls to the second round. Yaxel Landerberg falls to the second round. And they fall the 2 picks right behind us, which fucking sucks. I don't know what I'm thinking about. This is obviously going to be Danny Wolf. And I'm trading him right away. Seeing what I can get. I am like the Danny Ainge of drafts. Like I would trade. I trade so many times. Have you ever seen anyone make this many transactions on draft night? I would set a world record. If anyone ever gave me a GM title, I would be like immediately like laughed out of the league as like the most trade friendly person. I would just be like, let's make a trade, baby. Okay. Yeah. Grand opening, grand closing. Welcome package, goodbye package. You know, I would just be, if I was the general manager, I'd just be like messaging players like, hey, Jalen Tyson, welcome to Toronto. Keep your bags packed. Don't look for an apartment. Stay at an Airbnb. You won't be here for long. Josh Dimitri said, Shed is such an amazing backup point guard for the future, in my opinion. Might even work up to be a competent starter one day. Not many players can bring life to a game from an energy alone and be a pure dog. I agree with you on that. You know, in real life, Jamal Shed has some incredible value that he brings to this team. And it actually brings me to one of my final points of the night, which is really about the neuroscience of human beings in tight spaces, right? So I was watching an Instagram reel today. And it's by this dope ass content creator whose name I'm forgetting right now, but she's really cool. She does a lot of stuff on neuroscience. She has like 1.3 million followers on Instagram. You probably know her, and I'm just blanking on her name. So she had this reel, which I posted on his PENSARE Basketball Instagram, where she said that the people around you can change your brain, like legit change your brain. So when people around you are aiming high at things, it makes your aiming high seem normal. And if you're not aiming high, you become abnormal. And so she brought up a specific term, which effectively means that we have a desire to mirror, like I think she said mirror neurons. So we have a desire to mirror our surroundings, right? If everyone around you is very like cutthroat, very versus if everyone around you is very empathetic, you will, by sort of just being around those people, become more like that, right? That's why team culture is so important. So Jamal Shed, winner. Jacoby Walter, winner. These guys have winning habits, right? So they come into your locker room and they influence the overall like culture, right? Darko Rajakovic, all we talk about is winning, winning, winning. We want to win championships. So even when you're losing basketball games, because you had to lose basketball games in order to tank, because the NBA incentivizes losing, etc., because you're very young, You never ever let that losing seep into your DNA, because you never stopped. The games never stopped mattering for the Raptors. Y'all know what I mean. There was never like a day where players were able to disengage and say, "Oh, when's my summer going to start?" No, there was constant. And I think years from now, like many years from now, maybe 5 years from now, 7 years from now, we'll look back on this team, the 2024, 2025 Raptors, and even the 2023, 2024 Raptors to a lesser degree, as laying the groundwork in one of the most unique ways I've ever seen a team lose basketball games. Because at no point did they ever lose what they were aiming at, right? If their goal, like, here's the way I would say it. And I'm actually going to frame this as in a video game sense as well. There was a video game that came out between NBA 2K and NBA Live. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was called NBA The Show, if I'm not mistaken. Some of y'all may remember this. And what was interesting about that was, if again, I think it was, right? I think it was that. Oh, dope. We got a Dude Hero. We're actually going to keep a Dude Hero, which is absolutely awesome. And I think in this game, one of the goals was like you become drafted and you go to a random team and you're going to play with, so-and-so player. Like, so you get drafted to the Phoenix Suns and you're going to go play backup to Steve Nash and you got an agent and stuff like that. And so one of the goals was you would have like 3 things that you were supposed to do. Like your man can't score 3 times, or you had to hit 2 threes in that game, or you had to get 4 rebounds in that game. It's so interesting because most of us play to win the whole game, but we don't create all these mini games inside the game, right? That kind of keep us motivated. And we've seen that. We've seen that many times. Like Fred VanVleet was pretty much like stat padding. That's a game within a game, right? Like you have a counter goal, not a counter goal, but like an adjacent goal to winning the basketball game. It's like you want to win the basketball game, but you also got to get your numbers up. So FA saying Emily McDonald is the neuroscience lady. Yes, she is. That is correct. So my point is that when you have these side goals, right? So let's say for Grady, it was like put on 15 pounds of weight and, attempt 2 catch and shoot jumpers or double your free throw rate, right? So every single game he's going in with that in his mind. Like, okay, I got to hit the weight room. I got to build up this weight. That's one goal. So even though, yeah, you are actually suffering the loss because you look up at the scoreboard and you're down, 15 points, and you look at the standings and you're like 14th in the conference, you're actually still winning because you're winning what your goal was. Like winning and losing comes down to expectations, right? So in a lot of ways, when your goal is to lose basketball games, you celebrate when you win the draft lottery, right? Because you won. That was your goal. But that doesn't help your players. Like none of the players are developing. You can't go into a locker room and be like, guys, we're trying to be bad this year, so we'd like you to really go out there and play like absolute ass so we win 4 games. That's not helping anybody. The Raptors not only tanked, because they definitely tanked, they also managed to accomplish the fact that none of the side effects of tanking, which is usually stagnation and development, actually came through on the roster, which I think is genuinely a testament to not only the organization and the coaching staff, but also like just the people that you brought in. Because again, you don't need anyone in your locker room being like, yo, we ain't listening to the coach, our defense ain't working. That voice in your locker room just isn't there right now, right? That just isn't there. You don't have it. You don't have that dissent in your locker room. You don't have that division, whatever. You don't have that guy who's kind of like poking his head and being like, yo, this coaching staff is a bomb. This defense doesn't work. This offense doesn't work. Scotty's this and that's important, right? So finding the people who are willing to buy into and be coached, I think, is very important. But these people aren't robots. Like these are professional athletes. They are the highest level basketball players. And so you really do have to know your shit, right? They're not just going to be soldiers there obviously, like, there's a certain buy-in that comes naturally with, like, being a young player in the league, and this is your first head coach in the pros. You don't know what you don't know yet. So yeah, like, you're gonna have a difficult time, but you also have guys like Garrett Temple and Bruce Brown, and you have all these like veterans who are co-signing. So that's the important part too, is like that's another thing that a lot of young teams don't have, which is veterans who can actually show the young guys that, hey, the coaches actually know what they're doing. They actually know what they're talking about. And like, just kind of being a mentor in that case, and sort of modeling the behavior, because that's important too, right? So, shout outs to Kelly Olynyk and, Otto Porter and Thaddeus Young to a way, way, way lesser degree after that bullshit that he pulled on a podcast, and Bruce Brown and Garrett Temple and all these vets who kind of come in, been, the 10, 12, 13-year guys, and been able to sort of come to this young team and just say, hey, y'all need to listen to this coach. Even Dennis Schroeder, like, to some extent, I think did a lot to help Darko bridge the gap between being a first-time coach and sort of building that confidence. So, that's why I think, like, this team, it's really interesting what the Thunder are doing, because you try to look at the Raptors and you think, okay, well, the Raptors are super young roster. How does their roster compare to this OKC Thunder team? I'm clearly just trolling at this point, because they don't have anything close to a 68 win team. But I'm saying in terms of philosophy here, in terms of architecture, in terms of play style, like, are they a few pieces away from putting together like some dominant wing defenders that can sort of shut down and do similar things as the Thunder? Do they have like that college atmosphere? This is something I heard for years about the OKC Thunder, of like, it's like a college atmosphere. You have like the group thing with the mic, like whenever one guy's getting interviewed, you have like 15 guys show up and shit. They always huddle around. They're really super super together. Their off-court camaraderie is amazing. Their culture is very enviable. So all of those things, I think it does compare very well to what the Raptors are trying to build, right? Very much so. I certainly see that, right? Totally see how the Raptors are trying to build that out, right? In terms of like finding versatile, useful role players, right? Like at the next level, like trying to find, versatile wings. Are we not trying to find versatile wings? Couldn't you imagine? Like try to like ask yourself, like, how many of the players on the Raptors like could actually fit into what the Thunder do? Scotty Barnes is definitely a Thunder type of player. Ochai Agbaji is certainly a Thunder type of player. Jacoby is a Thunder type of player. I could argue Emmanuel Quickly has a lot in common with certain Thunder players. Like, these are, you know what I mean? Like do you not see parallels between Isaiah Joe and Emmanuel Quickly? Like, I mean, there are certainly some. Do you not see parallels between Isaiah Hartenstein and Jakob Poeltl? I see some, for sure. Do you see parallels between Scotty Barnes and Jalen Williams, J-Dub? I certainly do, right? They have like matured these players, right? Penn, would you trade Scotty plus RJ plus picks for Shea if that was ever on the table? Okay, close your ears. You're not going to want to hear this. I don't think I would trade Scotty for Shea. Sorry, man. I have lost all credibility with the chat. I'm not trading Scotty for anybody. I just wouldn't. I'm fully aware of all of the holes in his game. I'm fully aware that, y'all don't see him the way I see him, and that's fine. That's fine. And if I'm wrong in 4 or 5 years and he never reaches those MVP level, first team All NBA type of shit, that's fine. That's fine. Right? Josh Dimitri said I got killed for saying no to Scotty for Giannis. I am starting to think Giannis is actually going to end up in New York more and more. Like, not New York, Brooklyn. So, yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath if I was a Raptor fan expecting, oh no, I'm going to do the Lauri Markkanen trade, aren't I? I am going to trade for Lauri Markkanen. I just couldn't help myself. Yeah. I think he's great with Scotty. D-Book would be awesome with Scotty. Phoenix plays that said, like, if the handle ever, like if the handle gets there, I see that. So interestingly enough, yesterday I was watching Samson's mailbag episode, and I think one of you, I think it was SP, said that Scotty struggled with half court generation because of his teammates, because at least partially, and he sort of threw the water on that. Like, he didn't like that. So he said, we can take the kid gloves off. He said, Scotty has issues creating in the half court for a multitude of other reasons. We can't really blame his teammates. We need to take the kid gloves off. And so I just kind of briefly want to rebut that, because number one, when the hell have the kid gloves ever been on? Can we be for real? I mean, this is a guy who was getting slandered in national media in year 2. He was 21 and he was being slandered for work ethic issues, attitude issues, not shooting. There were no kid gloves then. The whole second year, all I heard was we could have had Kevin Durant. Where were the kid gloves? There's no kid gloves. There's no kid gloves. There's just progression, right? Number two, it is absolutely ridiculous to assume that any player is not drastically impacted by the players around them. Look, man, we are extending Nikola Jokic so much grace for carrying a hobbled roster. Now, I have news for you. Aaron Gordon on one leg is a better player than a lot of players you played this year. Jamal Murray, disinterested. Michael Porter Jr., one shoulder. Peyton Watson, Christian Brown. All these players that people like to say, oh, Jokic didn't have help. Yo, I hear you. But, like, Scotty had a worse roster than that version. Okay? So if you're going to extend him grace, then you're also going to have to extend him some credit. Right? And I just think that the people... There's a kind of like basketball analyst that kind of bothers me a little bit. And I try to make, I mean, again, I'm not like, I don't have 100% bar on self-awareness. So maybe I've done this myself. There's a type of basketball analyst out there who has a particular perspective on like how the game should be read. And then they try to like put everything into that box. Right. So for instance, they think that there's a rubric. So they'll pull up synergy. Thank God synergy is not available to some of these stat nerds anymore, but they pull up synergy. They look at someone's half court possessions. They isolate for points per possession. They look at what percentile the player is in, and they'll say, oh, the player is 17th percentile in half court rim finishing. And then they'll make this conclusion that no player in the world who's ever been 17th percentile in half court rim finishing can ever be good, right? That they broad brush everything into that, right? And to these people, I say, well, what did your formulas say about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming out of Kentucky? What did it say? Did it say that he was going to be an MVP? No. What were your concerns? What were all your concerns? Athleticism. He's not athletic enough. He's too small. He's too weak. Okay, well, why are those not concerns anymore? Because when you are talking about basketball players, you are talking about a constantly evolving game of cat and mouse between offensive player and defensive player, where the defense is trying to catch up to the offense and the offense is trying to outpace the defense. Having a player like Brandon Ingram draw so much attention away, it's going to make Scotty's life so easy. But let's not pretend that J-Dub and Chet don't make Shai's life easier. They do. I think we all saw, right? We all saw how open they were leaving Lu Dort, right? We all saw how open the OKC Thunder were willing to leave Russell Westbrook. Why? Because they're ganging up on the star, right? They're sinking middle to stop Jokic, stop at Shai. They're leaving Jalen Williams wide open. They're leaving the other J. Will wide open. These shooters have one thing in common. They're all better shooters than Jonathan Mobo. Like, what are we doing here? So the kid gloves thing kind of got me a little bit pissed off listening to that, because it just feels like an analyst who has made up their mind on what Scotty's supposed to be. And he always caveats it with like, okay, well, I still think Scotty's going to have all NBA upside, but he kind of talks about him like he's a little bit Draymond-esque. And it's never really ever sat right with me, because again, like, there's prospects that we like that we extend endless grace to, right? Because we were high on them in the beginning and we continue to want to be high on them despite all the evidence pointing to something not, like, we were just wrong, right? And It's something that I called out Sam Vecini for, and he clapped back pretty loud. And it's something that I believe is happening here as well, because, I mean, let's just be real. Raptors Republic was not high at all on Scotty Barnes. They were not. Y'all remember, they were the people who were like, it's got to be Jalen Suggs. So they've never been high on this. They can kind of force a smile when he wins Rookie of the Year and becomes an all-star, but there's always like this sort of like media frenzy of like, when's it all going to fall apart? When are we going to be proven right? And that's the unfortunate thing, right? I promise you, if Jalen Suggs comes back healthy next year and wins Defensive Player of the Year or something, they'll be like, see, we were right. And it's just like all the other evidence for the last 4 years meant nothing, because now in this moment, you get to victory lap. And, you know, hey, as someone who's done a lot of victory laps, power to you, victory lap all you want. But this is where I'm at. If you're going to have that energy for Scotty, then why do you not have that energy for Grady? Grady was a Gatorade National Player of the Year. Grady, I called him Gatorade, did not come out as a project offensive player. Grady came out as a lights out shooter. I mean, hey, relative to draft expectations, can we get something on the record here? Scotty Barnes came out as a 0-level scorer who was going to have a long-term project offensively in terms of shooting, who is going to provide great connective playmaking and be an elite defender. He has done that. He has widely exceeded the expectations for whatever bar was set for his draft stock. He has absolutely given you 100% the value. Actually, I would argue he's giving you 200% of the value of an overall, like an average 4th overall pick. So again, like, let's take the kid gloves off. Why does it feel like you're talking about Zion Williamson, bro? We could take the kid gloves off with Zion. Sure. We could take the kid gloves off with LaMelo. Sure. Because those are players who've had conditioning issues, massive injury issues, maturity issues. But what is this like? Let's sell, let's kind of dump on Scotty's half-court creation. I'm not blind to the fact that Scotty struggles to beat his man off the dribble without some assist. You know, I'm not unaware of the fact that until he can shoot better, he's going to have a difficult time doing anything, because defenses are always going to be willing to stand back 4 or 5 feet and let him shoot. Defenses are settling for the shot because they don't want him to get into the middle, because they don't want him to crater the middle of their zone, because they don't want him to get to the paint, because he can do that, right? But defenses are also always going to go to the thing that you can't do well. And so here's the thing. The cascading effect. The first thing you need to be able to do as a basketball player, right, on the basketball court. Oh my God, did I just try to trade for Cade Cunningham? I was just exploring it, see what might happen. The one thing that you want to do on the basketball court is you got to get to the rim, right? That's the first thing I want to teach a young player, is like, how do you beat your man off the dribble, get to the rim, right? The second thing I want to do is, what do you do when you encounter someone who you can't beat off the dribble, right? Someone who's too big, too quick, too long. How do you manipulate them? How do you, pull up, etc.? But beyond that, so when you're talking about great alpha scorers like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, I don't know why I put Paul George in there, Tracy McGrady, whatever. When you're talking about great scorers, great bucket getters, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, now you need to teach them how to map the court and draw the second defender, manipulate the defense, etc., do all that stuff, right? Now, a player like Jaylen Brown is way better at beating his man off the dribble than Scotty Barnes. He's shiftier, he's quicker, he's way smoother his handle is questionable all the time, right? But it's when you double him that all the court processing stuff kind of goes away, and you start to see the holes, right? You start to see the basketball IQ is lacking. He doesn't always make the right reads out of those situations. When you tighten up on him, like, if Jason Tatum doesn't play for like the first 50 games of next year, I'm very curious to see how he's going to do, because it's not going to be smooth sailing for him. He is not like he's not like what I would consider like a dominant first option. There just aren't a lot of players in the league who can generate 28% usage with limited spacing and poor teammates and lead to efficient offense. Like, it's not just a Scotty problem. It might be if you ask Chet Holmgren or J-Dub to carry an offense, I promise you they're going to get schemed the shit out. And here's the thing. The Scotty thing is, there's like a whole chain of events offensively, right? From how do you take contact at the rim? Can you finish at the rim? He has this one problem, but every other problem has already been pre-solved. You're not going to be able to double team him. You're not going to be able to, you know, you're not going to be able to guard him with some small player. You're not going to be able to guard him with a super big player. So he's already one of those players that you have to game for, you have to scheme for, or he's going to go off for 30. You cannot guard Scotty Barnes with a small guard. You cannot guard him with a big, with a slow-footed big. So he's already figured that out. What you can guard him with is elite perimeter defenders and a little bit of help. And that pretty much shuts him down right now, right? So the first thing is having Brandon Ingram. How many teams have 2 elite wings? So now we have a counter. If you're going to gang up on Scotty, then Brandon Ingram is going to kill you. You're going to adjust. Now Scotty's going to kill you. That's how it works, okay? Jason Tatum is not smooth with the handle. Jaylen Brown is not smooth with the handle. It's just the fact that there's 2 of them. The one that has got the weaker the weaker matchup, and the one who and the fact that even the one who has a stronger matchup cannot technically be double teamed because they have all this spacing around them. Like, they've built that Celtics offense for the Jays. What would Scotty Barnes look like in that Celtics offense? You think you'd still be talking about, like, oh, he's so slow-footed, or not slow-footed, like his handle is so bad, or whatever. Yeah, maybe. But you certainly wouldn't be talking for the last 3 years about him being slow to process double teams like Jason Tatum. You certainly wouldn't be talking about how he doesn't read the court like Jaylen Brown. So it's like, you know, all these stars, like Shea, like, shit, man, how many passes does Shea miss every goddamn game? There's so many. Those are passes that Scotty Barnes would not have missed in high school. So, you know, like, that's kind of where I'm at with this. Is like, there's definitely holes. We can talk about it, like the jump shot, the handle. It's not quite shifty enough. Maybe it's never going to be like burst, right? Maybe it's just going to be a grind. He's not going to be Giannis. Like, you don't hold your breath. It's not going to be Giannis. Scotty's not going to be Giannis. He's not morphing into Shea. He's not morphing into Kawhi. Okay. He's going to be like his own weird hybrid player. And that hybrid player is going to be very, very difficult to solve because he's outthinking you like 4 steps ahead, right? And now you're putting all these chess pieces around him that he can actually use, like good movement shooters, right? Good standstill shooters, good cutters. You're putting a motion offense in which, you know, the defense has to make 50 decisions. Like, we're just playing chess here, right? Scotty's making decisions in the middle of the court. You're making decisions reacting to his decisions. He's going to win that matchup. Like, this is why Nikola Jokic goes to 41 and people just argue that he's fat and slow and he can't jump. It's like, you have an idea that Nikola Jokic cannot beat his man off the dribble. You have an idea that he cannot generate advantages in the half court. And I'll tell you, he's probably the best offensive player of all time. So again, people have sort of this one size fits all when it comes down to offensive engines. Everyone thinks that you're supposed to build your entire team around Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, or someone like that, like some sort of shifty, creative ball handler. And it's just like, you don't have to. It's a nice piece to have, but there's plenty of teams that didn't build their team around some shifty ball handler, right? Like, Scotty can generate efficient offense in the post. He can navigate from point A to point B without turning the ball over. Like, we're not building our roster around Jonathan Isaac. You know what I mean? Like, he does have some ball skills. Like, he can do stuff with the basketball. Like, the shooting, if he didn't shoot like 28, 27% this year, if he shot 34%, like, these numbers look super different. So you just ask yourself, going back to the regular diet of shots from 3, which is the catch and shoot stuff and whatever, does he not, like, won't he be able to do like a much better job being efficient from 3? For sure. Barnes and Scotty said, enough of fixing jump shots. This is the last high pick Toronto will get for a long time. Make it count. Who do y'all want? Who do y'all want at number 9? Who do y'all actually want at number 9? Josh Dimitri said, low-key unrelated, but what do you think about the fact that the arguable best offensive player of all time and an all-time great fell to the second round? You talking about Jokic in the draft? I think Jokic was under-scouted, and I think he combined a whole bunch of biases that people already have. People have biases about fat players. They think they're lazy and they don't work hard. They have a bias about, international players because there's linguistic bias and it's harder to communicate with them. And I think they have a bias about athletic testing, right? Like he didn't, he measured really well, just for the record. Like they do drills in the draft combine, which, can simulate 5-on-4, 4-on-3, how you read situations. His hands were some of the best, in terms of like the testing. He had great hand-eye coordination. He had really good vision, really good basketball IQ. I just think people couldn't get over their bias about how fat he was. Like he just wasn't in good shape. I think that's what makes me very, very cautious about Derek Queen, right? Like it's like you want to rule out Derek Queen so badly because he's 18% body fat and he doesn't jump super high and he's whatever. And it's just like at the end of the day, he's on balance. He's super coordinated. His feel for the game is off the charts. It's the same thing with Jace Richardson. Like I would love to tell you that an off-ball guard who's 6'1" in shoes, who doesn't have a lot of lead initiation tendencies would, or at least like he doesn't project very well as like a Mike Conley style point guard or a Kyle Lowry point guard. He doesn't have any elite athletic traits. Like he's not bursty at the rim. He's not necessarily like quick twitch like Jeremiah Fears. Like you look at all those combinations and you're like, damn, this guy's going to be out of the league, right? But then you see how productive he was and you look at the analytics and you watch him play, and you might watch him play for like 7 minutes before you see him make a mistake on the court. And then he's always on balance and he actually finishes remarkably well in the paint. And you're like, shit, am I really overthinking 6'1" so much? It's the same feeling I have about Tahad Pettiford. Like Pettiford is super talented. People are really overthinking the height stuff, right? With him. So yeah, like to some extent you could say we're right to overthink it because look at how many times, you do have concerns about a player's height or whatever. But how many times did we not have any concerns about any of those things and they all became concerns? Or, how many concerns did people have about Stanley Johnson? How many concerns do people have about James Wiseman? There's so many busts in the draft that have busted spectacularly. And we had scouts saying, this guy can't fail. And it's just like, he did fail. Like he failed spectacular. Like you think of some of the players that I'm talking about, like top 6 picks, top 7 picks, that people were like, I think that's the major gripe that I have with the draft analysis people. And I'm not talking like amateurs like myself, but I'm talking like the credentialed people, the gatekeepers, the people who swear that they're the only people who can do this, right? The Sam Vecinis of the world, like the Kristen Peaks, like those people, the people who have access to the players, the people who think that they're like holier than thou, the people that, to some extent feel like they're on another level in terms of research. They have no idea how much research is going on beyond them, right? There are so many grinders in the space, man. The coolest thing about doing what I'm doing right now in terms of like draft outreach and following all these people and watching all these videos is I'm finding that there's thousands of people in this world who've devoted a year to this draft, right? Thousands of people who are studying possessions, thousands of people who have access to synergy, thousands of people who are creating mocks and doing their work and genuinely trying their best to break into this space. And I see all of that and I'm just like, damn, this space is like very much catching up, right? Like we've got a lot of people doing some very, very good work here. A little bit of summer league action here. Interesting. Damn, to be fair, centers don't need a high vertical anyway. I wonder if there's a correlation with that. That's what I would love to see. I would love to see if there's any statistical correlation between vertical leap, because I do know wingspan is deeply coordinated with defensive effectiveness at the next level. Like if you want to look at the gap between, I don't know, Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Jokic, I think Jokic is better personally. And I do think it comes down to wingspan. Barnes and Scotty said Trey is the dream. Trey Johnson's awesome. He's really good. I'm becoming a believer. Like when I studied his numbers a little bit more deeply in terms of like off the dribble stuff, like does Fears have grit? Oh, he has plenty of grit. Plenty of grit, man. Fits in beautifully with this team culture, but could be a flop. Could definitely be a flop at the next level. Like, he had the ball a lot in high school. He's had the ball a lot, for Oklahoma, and I'm curious to see what he would be like without the basketball. Oh, Carter Bryant, don't be missing those fucking shots. Come on, man. FA saying Trey is offensively gifted. Yeah, I mean, I think his off ball and passing is the most underrated part of his game. I think people have misconstrued him as some sort of shot chucker or, high octane offensive guy who just wants to score baskets and is a one-way scorer. I think he's like more of a complete player. I think his movement shooting potential is like very good. It's like Con Knipple, Trey Johnson. I'm trying to think of like the best movement shooters in this draft. Yeah, that's Carter Bryant actually has a tremendous upside as a movement shooter, and that's why I really like him. If you want my honest feed, so I've thought about this a lot, like over the weeks leading up to this, and since I first brought up Carter, and I've had times to get super high on him, maybe watch a little bit more tape, get a little bit lower on him, get a little bit higher, get a little bit lower, and you receive more intel, hear some things, then you get higher. Then there's a consensus bias that's baking in because he's flying up draft boards. I was one of the first people to really talk about him that highly. So now there's like more of like a rooting for Carter, almost as an extension of rooting for myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's almost like a, man, if this guy becomes the best player in the draft, like, I'm cemented. Like, you know what I mean? For all the, I think I have to move away from all of that and just evaluate him as a prospect and just watch him. There's so many things this guy does well. And the things that he doesn't do well that people can usually use to kind of knock him a little bit. And he's like, oh, his handle isn't tight enough. He doesn't get low enough in his stance sometimes. Or, the creation stuff is really weak. Yeah, sure. And I can tell you that a lot of those concerns that I had were answered with his high school tape. Right. Mitsu said, word on the streets is Giannis wants Toronto. Would you say no? Well, it's certainly not saying no to one of the 25 greatest players of all time in his prime. Like, I'm not an idiot. I think you have to ask yourself what is on your roster when he gets here. Like, what is remained on your roster? Like, what is still there on your roster when he gets there? Like, do you even have a team? If you've traded Scotty Barnes, you've accelerated your window by like 7 years. So congratulations on that. You've also gotten very expensive. If you've managed to keep Giannis and Brandon Ingram, congratulations. That's like 80% of your cap to those two players, or 70% of their cap to those two players. So Medved said RJ plus Quick plus picks. So again, if that's what it took, cool. They're not going for that because they'd be fired. Right? I mean, unless you mean picks, like 9 picks, right? And this is where it kind of helps to have like the deep asset base, which the Raptors never seem to have, right? Like, it would be a very different story if the Raptors like owned Miami's 2027, Utah's 2028, Charlotte's 2029, Dallas's 2030. Like, if you had a whole bunch of these extra picks, I think maybe you could make a lion's share. Like, you could make a king's ransom type of offer for Giannis. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can get something really like on paper that's like, hey, I have an offer for you. You can't refuse, But I think with only your own picks, you put yourself in pick deficit, which is to say you are almost in the same situation that the Nets were in mid 2000s. You're almost, or mid 2010s. You'd be in the same situation that Minnesota was in, trying to build around Kevin Garnett with all the picks that they lost. Those picks are pivots, man. Like, those picks are really important pieces that I think a lot of people use to get out of shit, And what do you do if Giannis, and I'm not saying that he would, but I'm saying, what do you do if Giannis like goes out and has a major injury from which he's never the same again? Like, what do you do after that? Right? I have no idea what you do. I genuinely don't. I have no idea what you would do in that case. I think you'd be fucked personally. But like that's kind of where I'm at. You know, it's a really, really tough. What the hell? Hang on 1 second. Sorry, there is a part 2 to that video. I'm just gonna put it on the screen. Give me a W if having a second thing on the screen while I'm sort of talking is entertaining or distracting. I mean, it is related to the Raptors and it would be content. But I did sort of put it together. The Raptors start out their season on a monstrous run, winning like every single game with this lineup. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. My guys are so tired, man. That is a pretty decent team. I'm not going to lie. That's a pretty decent team. I didn't expect them to win this many games, though. But yeah, they're a pretty decent team. I also mock play a few games, so you can sort of see what it looks like. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall, like I'm very much on the side of trade one of your young pieces for an extra pick in the middle of the first round. Josh Dimitri said, "Have you ever done a 2K rebuild fully on live?" Someone's gonna have to help me out with this. So I don't know how to do it via PS5. So what I usually do is I live stream it, but it's via private live. So now I can show you the private live, but it's not live when I'm doing it. Partially because I'm old, man. I'm in my mid 30s. So I'm not like up to the tech. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure if you ask Scotty Barnes, how do you live stream off PS5? He'd be like, yo, you just need this camera and you need this and you need that. Like maybe there's an easy way to do it and I just don't know. But it probably should be pretty simple. Penn should rebuild the Leafs. I really shouldn't. Although, I got to tell you, within about 2 minutes of watching that game, I was pretty sure the Leafs were going to lose. Now, it doesn't completely help that the Panthers took I think the Panthers took the first 7 shots on goal. Maybe that's just kind of why it felt. But that trend continued because I think it was 7 shots on goal for the Leafs. Then it was 7 shots on goal for the Panthers. And then it was like, I think it was like a 20-3. I learned a lot about hockey today, man. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't. I didn't have a clear answer to what icing was. That might be embarrassing for some of y'all, but like I really didn't know. I was kind of confused about it. So that was cool. Learning about offside, learning about icing, learning about a lot of stuff. So that was pretty interesting for me, at least. But in a weird way, the awful season from hell was probably necessary to get the luckiest lottery buff ever. True. Not Donald Fagan said, I only like playing sports games with the actual live roster of my favorite team. Otherwise, just play as the best team. I don't understand that. Vanessa Bardo said, Leafs are pathetic. Okay. I mean, they did get to game 7 of round 2 and, but they got stomped. They got stomped in 2 of the last 3 games. And the most unfortunate part is they got stomped at home on both games, right? They weren't favored to win today's game either. That's kind of sucks too. So that's just, I don't know. Also, Scotty just got injured. Oops. Suave said, will you cover the Toronto Tempo next year? I would like to. That would be great. Coach Roach, welcome. How you doing? If you want to call in, definitely. I should mention again to all of you, call-in link is in the description. If anyone wants to call in, definitely call in. We can talk about things. We can talk about the draft. We can talk about whatever you want. I'm here for another 20 minutes unless somebody calls in. Hang on. I'm actually going to throw the link up here. Boom. There's the call-in link in the bio. Oh, sorry, in the chat. We need more ball knowers like you in the WNBA. Bro, all you're going to get from me is Angel Reese propaganda, okay? You're just going to get me saying Angel Reese is great, Paige Beckers is great. I have a lot of high hopes for the Toronto Tempo next year. I'm sort of hoping that Flage ends up in Toronto, that would be so dope because you have Flage and you would have Scotty Barnes. Like those two are like kindred spirits. Like they are very, very similar people. That'd be super cool. And they both play 4. They're like number 4. So that'd be super cool too. Do you see Quickly as our future point guard, or would you rather Fierce? It's a good question. I did salary dump Emmanuel Quickly in this live, did I not? I did. And I salary dumped him for absolutely nothing because I needed to get into the luxury tax because I am the Toronto Raptors and I'm not trying to be in the luxury tax. Now, obviously, if I'm playing a video game, I shouldn't care too much that I'm in the luxury tax. Yo, Adu is fucking awesome. Even in this game, he is able to really get to the rim at will, and he does that in life as well. Just can't shoot. Said, I'm guaranteeing you, if Luka's on the market, if Luka on the market was made public, there would have been a better package. There's a reason why Post and GMs were heated when they heard about the deal. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, in terms of Quickly as the future point guard, I mean, honestly, man, I'm willing to say that he hasn't been the greatest with the Raptors, right? The most concerning thing for me is actually not even the offense, which has been tough at times. He's not the greatest processor of the court, and he is also 25 years old, and he notoriously shit the bed in the playoffs, so that's maybe not good. And he's just had some really low lows for me, but he's also like overall like a relatively decent player. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like he is like, in my opinion, he's a top 100 player in the NBA. Is that worth 30 million? I don't know. Maybe it's not because Herb Jones and Andrew Nemhard combined make less than Emmanuel Quickly, and I think they're both better than him. So maybe that's sort of the shitty part, right? Whereas like you overpay the guy a little bit, and maybe it sort of skews the expectation because you sort of brand the team as like the fresh start, and he's not Maxey, you know, he's not coming out like that. We got a caller, Anthony Wheeler. Anthony, what's up? You're on
Yo, Pen, what's up, bro? I want to say, I'll be watching you on Player's Choice, bro. I think you real, like really a ball knower. So
Appreciate you.
I just want to come up and ask you a question. Like, what do you think? Like, well, it's 2 questions. What do you think a ring would do for Shai's legacy? And would you see yourself paying J-Dub the max if they won a championship this season?
Good question, man. What would a ring do for Shai? I think it would probably accelerate some very uncomfortable conversations for some people about just what he did this year as an all-time guard season. Like, I really do believe he had one of the best all-time guard seasons ever. And, you know, does a ring put him in like top 75 all-time type of talks? Top 50, MVP plus ring plus 66, 68 wins, dominant defense. I think that's what it would do for him. I don't think it's not going to be like something crazy like, oh, he's a top 10, you know, player of all time, or, you know, he's better than Jokic all time or something like that. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy like that, but I do think it would cement him very much. To do it this young with one of the youngest rosters ever is just absurd, right? People can talk all they want about like how he has a super team of defenders, but he is really carrying that offense, and that offense really doesn't show up a lot. So that would be dope for him. And I think a lot of it would come down also to how he played. So like if he's in the finals and he goes off for like 38 points a game or something like that, I think that might put some accelerants on it. I think it would clear him of like guys like Tracy McGrady, guys who never won it, you know? So yeah, that's what I would do. And in terms of J-Dub as a max player, yeah, I think you'll have to damn near max him, if not completely max him. I don't know if I would, but I mean, he's an all-star. He's 25 years old. You're in a championship window. You've been cheap for a lot of years. Raise your ticket prices, win a championship, raise your ticket prices, and pay the luxury tax. Yeah.
The reason why I asked you, because you made a real interesting point. Like, people who really don't watch OKC, because you've been on this propaganda for a while. Like, you saying everything that this team was going to do. You were saying this shit before, like, it became a popular thing to say about how they were going to run through the West and eventually win a championship. But in theory, people think like OKC is this super team on offense and Shai just, when in reality, bro, like this series exposed so many flaws with this team offensively, and And Shea like showed me something with his interior pass and his decision making, his core mapping, as you say, like he was making good read. Now it was up and down. Like at first, in the first half of the series, he was shaky. The second half, he was like masterful, like super masterful with his decision making. I think if Shea can get better at throwing lobs, it would just unlock even more. Like, cause it's nothing you could be able to do, bro. Like the coverages that him and Jokic was saying was insane, man. And I'm just so happy that we all in like the golden age of hoops. And like dead ass, Pen, I'm not glazing you, bro. I dead ass watch you every morning, bro, from Washington D.C., bro. You really know ball, bro. Like I swear, I really respect your ball knowledge because there's no gimmicks with you. You have context and shit that like back what you say. You're not just going off emotion or going with the trend. Like, bro, I swear, bro, you had me watching Scotty Barnes, bro. Like, I'm like, this nigga pin no ball, so I need to go like tap in, bro, because this nigga really like he know what the fuck he know, bro. And I really like want to salute you, bro, because like when you want to play a show, I'm like, yeah, my guy pin up here, like this nigga gonna teach us some shit, bro. So like, yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me up here, bro. I'm watching you, bro. You got love down here from DC, and bro, keep letting these niggas know, nigga. Shea is the best guard since Kobe, bro. I appreciate you having me up here.
Appreciate you, Anthony. Appreciate it. Peace. Dope caller. Appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Ant-Man, young light skin saying W Ant-Man. Barnes with Scotty saying I fuck with bros energy. It's good energy. Yeah, I mean, look, I know I got a lot of loud haters on PC, but y'all have to know, like, I'm doing some of this shit on purpose, right? Like, I'm not ever gonna go up there and lie. That's how I feel, so I'm gonna say it. But I don't have to say it exactly how I say sometimes. But you know, you need friction, man. I hate this idea that people want to act like, you know, I'm supposed to go up there and say like the shit that's been said 5,000 times before. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm trying to be original. And yeah, I mean, if me saying Cooper Flag reminds me of Kevin Garnett and Jason Tatum while everyone's trying to push this sort of Andre Kirilenko thing, yeah, it's gonna be controversial because it's not really talked about. Like, it's not something you're saying before. And you know, if like there's just a word to anyone out there who's, you know, talking basketball online or discourse or whatever, like if you're gonna be the first person to say anything, or you're gonna be in the minority to say anything, like you're gonna have to take some slings and arrows with it, man. That's just how it is. You know, so right now, obviously, I think Scotty Barnes is a lot better than everybody else thinks he is, right? So if I want to put Scotty Barnes in conversations with, you know, elite top 20 consensus top 20 guys, and I want to say he's better than them, like you try to go to a barbershop down in the States and try to tell people Scotty Barnes better than Jaylen Brown on defense, they would fight you. They don't believe that. They just don't. They don't watch him though. So, you know, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. And it's funny, like, you know, the underrating factor is real. Look at how we were talking about OG and Pascal here. Like, I think most people up here believed that, you know, when we were watching Pascal, we were legitimately watching like a top 15, top 20, top 25 type of player in the league. And maybe not top 5, top 6, like what Jack Armstrong was saying, but we were watching like a real all NBA type of talent. Maybe not suited to be a first option, but definitely like the most dominant Robin. And we're trying to tell people like this dude can change your life. You know, I'm trying to tell my boy in Sacramento, like if y'all traded for this guy, like he would be so much better. But he's just like, come on, bro, Pascal. And it's the same thing with OG. Like you try to tell people OG is like going to be this game-changing defender because I'm watching him every night do it. But you're not watching him because you're not watching the Raptors. And that's just how it goes. But now you see like all these guys that Masai was swearing were like these really good players, and they weren't getting the deals done for them because it's not the same PR, right? Like OG and Pascal did not have the same PR reps as Jalen Brunson and Jaylen Brown, clearly, right? So that just comes down to trade value. It's just like how you're perceived around the league. And it's just like, I personally don't care how you're perceived around the league because right now, I don't think, like last year, when I was, give me a W in the chat if you remember me talking about Dyson Daniels being like one of the better better wing defenders in the league. He was averaging like 13 minutes a game, right? Lately, I've been pushing a lot of Josh Minot propaganda, right? There's just certain players that it's like, if you know, like you're seeing them. Sometimes you'd be wrong, for sure. Definitely been wrong a bit. I was very, very high on AJ Griffin, and he's retired now, so that sucks. But, you get this feeling when you watch teams play that, I have a good grasp on what this guy could do in a better situation, what this guy could do in a different situation. With Pascal, it was just about finding the right situation, playing fast, playing off of Tyrese Halliburton, having that burden off where, he could have a 12-point game and they're not going to automatically lose the game, and they're not asking him to do too much. And occasionally he can cook off the weak side. Like, man, Pascal's in a dream situation. OG's in a great situation. I don't know. Paradise Lost said, why AJ Griffin retired? I think he found God. I think that was it. I think he said that, basketball wasn't calling to him anymore and that God was there. I mean, honestly, like, I know a lot of people call him crazy for it, but his dad was a former professional basketball player. He's not poor, right? So, plus, I think a lot of personal shit happened in AJ's life as well that I think you need to respect. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit because I think y'all are going to be really surprised at how this season ended for the Raptors. Okay, let the season finish out. I mean, shit. What a statistical improvement, right? Is BI a top 20 player in your opinion? No. No. Top 30 probably. Guess who won MVP, bitch? And MIP. Most improved and MVP? Scotty Barnes. You're gonna get your hopes up with these numbers. Be for real honest. Are you telling me that these numbers are impossible? Be for real now. Are these numbers impossible to achieve? You got Vince Carter on a live broadcast saying, I think he's like Jokic. He can average a triple-double. These numbers are not impossible, yo. He's not averaging 36 points per game. I fully think 25 points per game is fully possible with this guy. Fully possible. Barnes and Scotty said those numbers, those are realistic. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I agree with you. The only part of this that might be a little bit unrealistic is 38% three-point shooting. But honestly, if he adjusts his diet from off the dribble to off the catch and shoot corner threes, which he was like barred from taking this year, I think he could shoot like 35, 36% easy. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't bet on this being the outcome next year, but I would bet on this being, he's going to be closer to this player than the player you saw last year. That much I'm willing to say. He probably won't win MVP. He won't win MVP. I'm not a bettor, but I would put money that he's not going to win MVP next year. Scotty wins MVP and Rodgers decides the internet needs to crash out. That was weird. Thank you to the 170 plus of you who stuck around for that momentary shortage. I've been having occasional hiccups with Rodgers for close to a month and a half now. This bullshit ass company actually had the nerve to tell me that they were sending a tech. I'm just gonna vent about Rodgers for like 2 minutes because they deserve this. So they agreed to send a tech, and I called them the first time. Okay, this is gonna be my Rodgers like horror story. Okay, and Rodgers, y'all deserve this for being like the shittiest company on earth. So I call them up and I say, listen, my internet chopped out. I do live streams. I can't have this happening, etc. They say, that's cool. we'll send somebody in to look at it, whatever. And I said, listen, I'm on a live from 11 till 2. I was on the panel that day. I can't have like this text showing up past 10:30. They're like, that's cool. We'll put it in order for the person to be early. Cool. Next morning, it's like 10:15. Person hasn't shown up. I call them up. They're like, oh no, your window's from 8 to 12. I'm like, I can't be dipping out of the panel to cut out my internet, etc. They're like, okay, well, you're gonna be charged $75. I'm not cool with that. So I complain. I say, listen, the person told me that the person's going to show up before 10. Fuck your, ranges of 4 hours. They say, okay, well, if the person shows up, then just let them know that you're canceling. We'll charge you the 75. Call us back when you receive your bill, and we'll adjust it. So that's 3 calls to Rogers. Stupid enough, the person shows up at 11:15. I say, I don't want to do all this. I don't. So I actually messaged PC before and I said, listen, I'm gonna dip out for 10 minutes. Y'all cool with that? The person wants to fix our internet. I dip out. The guy tells me there's nothing wrong with your internet. There's some other tech here who's fixing it in the other building. It's supposed to be fine. And I said, I won't be charged for a missed appointment, right? Because I'm here. You can come up if you want. He's like, no, you won't be charged for a missed appointment. Lo and behold, I check my bill. I'm charged for a missed appointment. So I call Rogers again and I say, why have I been charged for the missed appointment? They say, please hang on while we catch up with your account. 1 hour later. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we'll adjust your bill. And I'm like, yo, are you gonna deal with the fact that I've still had internet outages occasionally, on and off, spotty internet every day? There's like a random, it's like I feel like I'm playing Minesweeper with my internet. Like every day there's like a 5 to 6 minute window where it just cuts out, just like it did right there. And they're just like, well, we're very, very sorry that you've gone through this experience. I understand. It's like, do you really though? And I'm just like, what are you going to do to compensate me for the 3.5 hours that I've spent with you guys trying to fix this issue? Nada. So I'm like, I need to speak to your manager. What did all of this get me, you ask? A $17.70 goodwill credit added to my account. And I still got spotty ass internet. Fuck Rogers, man. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with Rogers because our condo building decided to bulk package with Rogers. I will admit, though, I have never paid less for internet and cable and all that stuff. So it's a pretty decent deal overall, but I don't know. I don't know, man. Now I'm just watching this 2K sim. But yes. Everything is sped up, by the way, by like 1.25. So just so y'all know, these players are not moving at hyperspeed. It's just the entire 2K thing is because it was like a 2.5 hour thing. I don't want to sim it out, but yes. You know what I'm going to do?
Cleveland takes a 3. Out of bounds. It'll be Cleveland ball. And the Raptors with some changes. Bryant comes in for Brandon Ingram, and it's Walter in for Dick. Okoro is checked in for Cleveland.
We're just going to watch this out.
Outside Mitchell. Back to Garland.
You know what? Spoiler alert, they catch up. I'm just going to simulate it. I'm just going to flash forward a little bit ahead so y'all can see the end of this game.
Well, over the break, I did listen in on Kenny Atkinson's huddle. He seems pretty disappointed with the 3-point shooting, telling his crew we have to start making more outside shots. I want to see more threes out there. Let's get aggressive. Coach is hoping some big production can make a splash for them.
Allie, thank you. All right, time for an injury report.
Hey guys, the head athletic trainer of the Raptors was able to update me on the situation. I'm told there's some stiffness in one of the finger joints, but overall, the rest of the hand feels okay. While not severe, this is still a serious diagnosis that usually keeps guys off the court for a short period. Back to you.
Well, we appreciate it, Allie. Hoping to see him back on the court soon, guys.
They really hope to have him back, but it's so crucial that he's healthy when he returns.
And now the Cavaliers on the break. Oh, and Mitchell powers it home.
The execution has been better lately. but do they have enough energy to pull it off?
Well, they've shown both effort and will to get back into this one, but can they finish this one off? Can't let up now.
The shot by Ingram, no good.
And even though he couldn't send the shot back at him, he certainly altered it.
Yeah, that's the kind of energy that you want to see on every possession throughout the game.
Their ball movement on this run has been tremendous. It's led to a lot of good, clean, open looks.
Up top, Barnes. Guarded by Garland. Kicks it out to Markkanen. Shoots over Mobley. And again, Toronto, no good.
They managed to get the rebound, but that's an area where they've been struggling tonight.
Mitchell, the pass to Hunter. Back to Mitchell. Allen a screen.
Hang on.
Mitchell misses.
Well, mid-range.
There we
is where
go.
He makes the money. So when the D's slow to get out on him, always surprising to see him miss from there.
Barnes. Good D by Mobley.
I'm not going to see that very often. The defense in the vicinity, but still, he's not one to blow layups.
Oh, and he got fouled on his way up. He'll head to the line to shoot two. That one on Barnes.
And he's not shying away from the drive at all. Mitchell isn't afraid of the tough defense, and that tenacity gets him to the line.
And the free throw is good. Now leading by one.
I want to think twice before sending him to
I need
the
some
line
defense.
again. He gets locked in when the game gets close.
And timeout called by Darko Rajakovic. He was quite emphatic, demanding the timeout, clearly wanting to address strategy with his team. And so it's Barnes with it. He brings it up for the Raptors. And down it goes. 2 points. Barnes has got 28.
Gigantic basket by Barnes. This guy's not afraid.
Outside Hunter. Mitchell feeling it out a bit. Oh, it's blocked by Barnes. They retain possession, and the shot is good by Garland.
And Garland stepping up to knock one down.
Toronto trailing. Outside Barnes. Over Garland. And drilled from 6 feet. Barnes has got 30 points.
And he was dominant in their last outing. And the same thing here tonight. He is in a terrific move right now.
Seems to be nobody standing in his way. No roadblocks for him to get to his spot, capitalize, and continue to be aggressive.
So it's the Cavaliers now. Toronto making their last shot. Count that bucket.
And with his length and touch, Mobley is tough to contain from mid-range.
Pass to Pirtle. Outside pick. Outside for Ingram. Shot clock at 6. Right side Barnes. Over Garland. Barnes, no good. Cleveland has gone 4 of 8 from three-point land during the fourth. Hunter passes to Garland. No good with the triple. Here's Barnes. It falls!
Wow, that takes steady nerves right there.
Not backing down from this moment here. When the game is close, he kicks it up a notch.
And Kenny Atkinson has called a timeout. And Coach didn't want to take any chances in this situation, which is why he called the TO.
I know how it ends, but I'm nervous still.
.40 seconds left in the game. Here's Mobley. A shot, no good. Some solid defense from Markkanen. Expect them to take their time this trip down.
Yeah, B.A., the clock is theirs to burn.
Oh, you got to love it. They thought Turtle was the best option.
And that's
there.
why you have big playmakers.
Right.
And Kenny Atkinson has called a timeout. There is a lot on the line, and he is determined to make sure everyone's on the same page. And we've got 28 seconds left in the game. Pass to Mitchell. There's the three. And it's in. Oh, a tremendous three. We're tied.
Man, I'll tell you what, the pressure is cranked up. Who better to call than this guy?
Garland against Barnes. Good!
So far, he's a can't-miss player, a superb scorer who plays to his strength.
And the Toronto Raptors will move on.
All the work, all the effort that they poured into winning this conference, it is a significant achievement. They sent some of the best teams in the East home early.
But with that success, a reminder that the most difficult part of this journey lies ahead.
True enough, but still.
That was pretty dope. I like to make these games somewhat exciting. Kenny's saying, why is Garland on Barnes? That's a really good question. Would the real Cleveland Cavaliers have not adjusted that? Hell yeah, they would have. But I'm starting a 6'9" point guard. So that's why they're there. Come on, Malowach, injured again. Yo, come on, it's really injury prone in NBA 2K for some reason. I got Walter Clayton on my bench. Lion Leon. Sorry, can't read right now. So what moves do you make if you're Denver, Penn? It's a good question. Well, what would I do if I was Denver? Oh, by the way, Cooper Flag versus Scotty Barnes in the finals. That's pretty dope. I mean, I would really pray that Deron Holmes is healthy going into next season. I know he's a rookie, but he's a really decent player. They don't really have anyone at the backup big. I think Christian Brown was phenomenal. Right? So I'm not really sure, to be honest. Everyone's saying trade Michael Porter Jr., trade whatever. I don't think it's that easy to trade Michael Porter Jr. That's just the problem. I don't think it's that easy to trade MPJ. Military Man said, hey, Penn, I just thought of this. Will teams put their best defender on Scotty or Ingram? Probably Ingram. But I don't think they're going to just live with Scotty having 35 points. But I do think that Ingram is the more dynamic and difficult to stop offensive player. So it would make more sense. Like if it's OG and Mikal, then Mikal is getting Scotty, which is great for the Raptors because OG is a really difficult matchup for Scotty. And that's just the point of this, right? By the way, we did trade for Keon Ellis, which is fucking amazing. Bro, Lauri Markkanen and Grady Dick in the same lineup might actually make me lose my mind. Okay, let's watch this game. This is the closeout game of the NBA Finals, so.
Bryant. And Dallas also making a switch. Daniel Gafford's checked in for Jared White. And while we've got a moment, let's send it over to our terrific reporter, David Aldridge. David?
Hey, Kevin.
Also, a little bit of context. Scotty Barnes has been injured, and it was like a pulled hamstring or something. He's not here. So we got to go the rest of the route without him.
Able to listen in on what Darko Rajakovic was going over with his team. Now, he talked about keeping confidence. He said, this game is close, but we know we're the better team. Now it's time to go out there and prove it. See if they can come back in this one, guys.
All right, thank you, David. On the floor right now for the Mavericks. Williams is out there with Christie. Then there's Daniel Gafford. Then it's Anthony Davis.
Yeah, nothing too fancy. Just getting the job done when they need to. Make every possession count.
There's Williams, and they cash in right away with the quick shot. And the Mavericks lead by 1.
Nice play call there. Down the stretch, getting him the open look.
Yeah, I put that one on the defense. I mean, they can't leave him open at this stage.
Now here's Ingram. He gets that one. Ingram's got 12 points now in the quarter.
And at the offensive end, he's done about as much as they could have hoped for today.
He's covered by Ingram to the inside. Davis doing his thing inside.
Poised under pressure to produce at the right time in the big time. AD.
Now here's Ingram. Tight defense on him. Markkanen passes to Ingram. Back to Markkanen. Rebounded by Gafford. Gafford's got 4 rebounds now tonight. Now with an update on Scotty Barnes from David Aldridge. David, what'd you find out?
Thanks, guys. I got a status report from the Raptors head athletic trainer, and this is an unfortunate injury, potentially devastating. They say that he likely will be out for the rest of the playoffs. Kevin, this is a devastating break, both for him and for the team.
Thanks for the status report there, David. At least we now know, Greg, how he's doing.
Yeah, well, when you talk injury, the unknown factor is always a difficult thing to deal with.
And, you know, for him, just watching his teammates unable to contribute, that's really a helpless feeling.
Now here's Davis. Brandon Ingram missing his last shot. And that one drops. And now a 3-point Dallas lead.
AD is the man. Prime-time play by a prime-time bowler.
Oh, you just love seeing a player with absolutely no fear.
Cool, calm, collected, and confident in the biggest moment of the game. Yes.
And it's the Mavericks with the ball. Raptors knocking down the tray.
Well, a great effort on defense there against a guy who typically makes that.
And foul on the shot, so he'll get a chance at the line.
You never want to foul a jump shooter. Dick certainly qualifies as one.
Good on the first, and that gives them the lead. So he gets them both, and it's a 2-point ball game.
And you really can't say enough about his composure in the big moments, as cool as they come.
Some changes for Toronto. Bryant comes in for Grady Dick, and it's Scotty Barnes in for Ellis. There's 42 seconds left to play here in the fourth.
Gets the shot he wants. The defense wasn't quite connected enough. They lost contact.
And here's Toronto. And here is Barnes. Over Williams. It's in!
And no fear in Barnes late in the game. This guy is not afraid of the moment.
And Jason Kidd is called timeout. And he knows there's no room for mistakes. He wants everyone on the same page. Guys, what's your take on how they maximize their opportunities now?
Yeah, always intriguing to see what a coach draws up in this situation.
And we call those ATOs, or plays run after a timeout. They often make the difference in the game.
And an intentional foul right there.
Yeah, you can't let them hold the ball and just milk those 5 seconds away.
No, you got to foul. I mean, it's going to come down to free throws here. Foul right away.
That's good. Going 1 of 2 from the line, and that will put them up by 2. 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter. To the paint. Here's Davis. Yes! A huge shot to tie it up.
Coming off a big game, his confidence couldn't be higher, and coach knows it.
Showing no signs of slowing or cooling down. They're going to ride him as far as you can take him.
And Darko Rajakovic calls timeout. No doubt he is feeling the importance of this moment right now.
Okay. I need predictions on what's about to happen. 4 seconds to go. Tie game. We go into overtime. We getting a game winner. We getting a corner 3. What are we getting? Kenny saying AD is big time. Young Lightskin saying AD. Ashley would not be surprised if Kyrie is back. Barnes and Scotty saying Kawhi. Scotty Kawhi shot. Scotty icing the game. Y'all do realize that yellow, medical bar next to Scotty means he's injured, right? Military man saying Brandon Ingram step back in the midi. All right. I mean, we just need 1 point. We need 1 point, and we need the buzzer to clock out, and we win a championship. All right, let's see what happens.
Bryant, that's a two-pointer. Oh, they've done it! The Toronto Raptors are the new NBA champions. Absolutely tremendous. All the travel, all the practices, all the meetings, all the games, wins and losses, the emotion, the exhaustion, culminating into tonight.
And whenever you win the NBA championship, there is a level of accomplishment and excitement that really can't be matched. But pretty amazing to have accomplished this goal.
The celebration is here, and this place is going crazy. The bench loves it. The fans obviously overjoyed. This is one of those moments these players will never forget. And we've enjoyed bringing you every minute of the action here on 2K Sports. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next season.
Overall, not gonna lie, that was pretty epic. Scotty Barnes, Finals MVP. Good shit. Little KRS in the background, for real. I mean, honestly, I had no idea what I was doing with that. When I caught that basketball, I was like, I don't know. What's the move here? Am I really going to try to win this game with Scotty on one leg? And I was just like, oh, immediately my Scotty brain said, what would Scotty Barnes do here? Scotty Barnes would make the right play. And the right play is they went under. They lost Carter. They left him. He's wide open for a jump shot. Just take the jump shot. Had no idea he was going to make it, but that was pretty dope that he did. Anyways. A little KRS in the background probably just got me demonetized, so shit. I just realized that. Yeah, finals game winner would be dope. So, would real Carter Bryant live up to the hype of 2K Carter Bryant? I think my thoughts on Carter are very, very well documented, and I'm sure that when Airson and I get into the shit tomorrow, we'll definitely do like 10 to 15 minutes and just get his deeper thoughts on Carter. Respectfully, I don't think so, for sure. What moves did you make to have that roster? You'll have to go back. I showed the entire progression. It was clear to me that the Utah Jazz were looking to move off of Lauri Markkanen's contract. I traded RJ Barrett to get him. And then for some inexplicable reason, the Sacramento Kings in 2K are absolutely batshit crazy. So they ended up dealing Keon Ellis for very little. So, but apart from that, it was getting extra first-round picks. So there was an extra first-round pick for, I think I traded Jamison Battle, and somehow the team that traded for him waived him, and I picked him up back in free agency. So, yeah, overall, I don't think that roster is totally unachievable. I really don't. I don't think it's unachievable to come through with that roster. You might have to part with an extra pick, but I don't think that roster is unachievable. I also think playing out that roster, usually I trade. Like, I almost always trade Jakob Poeltl. This is the first time I actually did a rebuild where I kept Jakob Poeltl. It's very interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I think Yak is a really good player. I really do. I think with a little bit more spacing and shooting, we'll probably feel a little bit differently about him next year. Would you rather have Sabonis or Laurie for this current Raptors roster? It's a good question. I mean, Sabonis is the vastly better player. Laurie is the much, much better fit. Do you have a what do I need for X or a what can I get for X from X approach to trading? I don't think I understand the question. Do you have a what do I need for X or what can I get from X approach? Try to reword that for me. My brain is a little bit fried at 1 a.m. Trying to think like, what can I get from X? Like, do you mean like I find my target and then I try to assemble a package around it? Or do I just dangle pieces and just kind of willy-nilly look for what I'm approaching? I do both. I don't have either approach. So for instance, I really wanted the 17th pick from Minnesota because I saw their roster was getting very expensive. Maybe they didn't want. They're also in a contention window. 2K does adjust for where a team is in their lifeline in terms of how much they value picks. So typically it's going to be mid first round picks are going to be a little bit discounted if it's a contender because they don't want the young player. Ochai Baji probably helps you more than the average 17th overall pick in this year's draft. So made the move, right? Maybe they were looking to replace someone expensive with someone a little bit cheaper. Ochai is a pretty cheap deal. I think that's the kind of value that you have. Like, if you can speed up the value. Now, look, I'm not rational about Jacoby and Ulrich specifically and Scotty. Like, there's just certain players where I'm just irrationally attached to them. That's potential. That's just whatever you feel is potential. And if I guarantee you, if we draft Carter Bryant number 9, add him to the list. I'm not trading him for anything for like the next 3 years because there's no way that somebody else is going to give me what I value him as. That's the problem with potential, right? You've planted a seed. You know what seed you've planted. You know how you're nurturing it. You know how you're watering it. You know how it's supposed to develop in your program. Other people see 7 points per game, right? So that's sort of my perspective on it is like there's certain players that just have this sort of unprojectable upside. And I think Scotty's one of them. I really do. I think Scotty's entire, like, there's not one person in the world, myself included, who could have told you he was going to come out, win Rookie of the Year, and be an all-star by year 3. I just don't think you could have seen that. I don't think most people would have said in his third and fourth year he'd average damn near 20 points per game. I think you could have said maybe, but like you would have argued that it would be to the detriment of his team that he's averaging those points, or they just give him free opportunity. And I mean, some people argue that is the case. But again, I think there's a world in which this guy morphs into a top 5, top 7 player in the league. And I just don't think you're going to get value for him that's going to match that expectation. And so you're betting that you're right and that everybody else is wrong. And everybody else is betting that they can just steal this guy away from you at 23 years old and he blossoms into their franchise player. So yeah, but apart from those 4 guys, I think the Raptors, you know, if you do develop Grady correctly, and again, I'm very high on Grady. I want to make that abundantly clear at this point that I'm not suggesting we need to trade Grady or whatever. He's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of theoretical upside as a big playmaker who is a dominant movement shooter whose shot really hasn't fallen up until this level, you know, at a really high rate, but he's still guarded like a really great 3-point shooter. He's still guarded like a great movement shooter. He still got to the line at more than twice the rate that he did as a rookie. There were notable progressions. Like, I think he averaged like almost 20 points per game for his first stretch and then, you know, really just fell off. And I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really, really good young player that you can build around, you know, or build with, not build around, but you can build with him, right? I would be very, very happy if I was the Orlando Magic and I had him. You know, I think with Franz and Paolo, and the cool thing about movement shooters is they fit with everybody because they're such a cheat code. Like what you have right now, right, with guys like Case and Wallace, guys like Ludor, is you have guys who can hit threes, but you don't have guys who are creating threes. There's a big difference, right? Military Man saying, Kenny, bro, Trey Murphy is not a bench player. You are such a casual. Don't even, bro. Honestly, I do get heated when people downplay Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy is definitely not a bench player. Trey Murphy is awesome. Ironically, you know, when I think about some of my favorite players in the league that nobody likes to talk about, I'm talking about guys like Denny Avdia, Dyson Daniels, Toumani Camara, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jalen Johnson. Again, guys that I feel like are widely maybe downplayed a little bit more than they should be. And it's interesting that Carter is like a hybrid of all those players in theory, right? He has a lot of potential to be okay. So here's one of the cool things. So when I was doing my draft evaluation today and I was thinking about how do I look at these prospects, what 10 factors should I put on my scorecard that are going to really be some meaningful thing? Like, it doesn't really make sense for me to say shooting and movement shooting as two separate subjects, but shooting is such an important thing in the league. So shouldn't I make it two separate subjects? Like, I'm just trying to figure out that the weight matters. You know what I mean? So if I give a score of 97 versus another player that I'm getting a score of 92, then obviously 97 is higher than 92. But what if 92 is the better player and my score is just arbitrary? So I was thinking about what to do with that. And one of the things that I was thinking about is just so important as a prospect is role versatility, right? Like, can you actually do different things to be successful, right? I think that's a really hard part of draft evaluation and probably like an underrated part that we don't think about enough because we almost always thinking in terms of comps and, you know, upside and this guy's going to be the next Kobe Bryant. This guy's going to be the next Andre Karolinko. And it's just like, okay, cool. What if he doesn't become the next Andre Karolinko? Is there something else that he does really well that's going to extend his NBA career beyond his rookie contract, right? And I think so many times when you look at like all-time NBA draft busts, why did they really bust? A unique example of a player that busted was a rookie of the year, Michael Carter Williams. Another one who busted for the exact same reasons was Tyreek Evans. And the bust element was they didn't have a lot of role versatility. They knew how to play one way. They could only succeed one way. They only knew how to succeed one way. They had only interest in succeeding one way. And the minute you asked them to do anything else, they were cooked. You could actually throw Brandon Jennings in this mix as well. Like, when I look at a guy like Dylan Harper, right, there is a way that he has been successful through most of his life as a basketball player that you know about, right? Through AAU, through high school, through college. It has been with the basketball in his hands, making decisions in the middle of the court. Now, what if we find out after your rookie season or your sophomore season that because of your shot and because of how teams are guarding you, that you, or because you're playing with De'Aaron fucking Fox now, right? We need you to do something different. We need you to be a screener, a cutter, a defender. We need you to be a movement shooter, or we need you to be a catch and shoot guy. We need you to do some other stuff. Do you have that in your game? Is that in your toolkit? And are you even interested? Are you even interested in becoming that? I think when people evaluate a player, like give you a hypothetical, Ace Bailey versus Carter Bryant, right? Again, as prospects, it is absurd to most people that I would compare Ace Bailey and Carter Bryant, because when people see Ace Bailey, they see the smooth shot package and they see, you know, this really big athlete, and they see shot making potential and talent and wiggle and handle and shift, and they see a lot of stuff. But what I'm asking is, cool, I understand who is better at the 30% usage role where the ball is in their hands all the time, but who's better at being a 20% usage guy who has to play off ball and crash the glass and be physical and guard the other team's best player? Like, what if that's what I need Ace Bailey to be? Which of these two players can succeed in that role? And I think the Raptors, at least under Masai Ujiri, and especially for the last few years, have really, really valued role versatility a lot. Jacoby has a lot of role versatility, you'll see it more as he grows. Grady has a lot of role versatility. I think he could be more on ball if he was on a worse team, to be honest. If he was in Washington, I think he could handle some pick and roll possessions for you. I don't think his handle is great, but it's not bad. Scotty had a lot of role versatility. Look at that. Like, I mean, he could play fifth option, fourth option. He can play 5 different positions. That's a lot of role versatility, right? So you might judge a Scotty Barnes as a prospect and say, well, you know, this one thing that we really all wish you could do, which is to say mimic Luka Doncic, you're not very good at that right now. But Luka can't do 85 different roles either. So you do have to value role versatility a lot. I think the same reasons that I like Scotty Barnes is the same reason that I like Carter Bryant, because I think he has like a toolkit to do like a million different things on the court. Noah Senge, like I'm thinking about stacking wings, like high lottery or mid lottery wings. I look at a Con Knipple. How does a Con Knipple grade out in terms of role versatility? Carter Bryant, how does he grade out? And it's just like Con and Carter have fewer holes than a lot of the other prospects near the top. So, which is to say, their floor immediately becomes higher. I don't even need to talk about floors and ceilings here, because none of us will really know what the floor or ceiling of a prospect is. I'm just talking about the scalability of your role will often determine your floor as a prospect, right? What's the worst that you can be is really the question we're asking. Is like, are you going to be the 500th best player in the league? I think when you look at role scalability and then personal red flags, I think what those two factors tell you, you can also talk about durability in this case, athletic upside, etc., is really what is the floor of a prospect. If at worst, what you're going to be is a positive defender who can shoot threes, I'm pretty comfortable that matters to me. Unfortunately, a lot of general managers, partially because a lot of the teams that pick at the top of the draft are usually really bad, I think a lot of them over prioritize the ceiling and they don't necessarily care as much about the floor because they're just like, they're drunk. You know what I mean? Like they got that, while I'm here, I might as well, you know, they got that mentality. And I think what I'm saying is this year, unfortunately for the Raptors who are picking at 9, most, if not, I want to say all, 80% of the teams that are picking ahead of you actually don't have that dumpster diving mentality of, you know, let me just throw something at the wall and see what sticks. So it's really hard for me at this point, if I'm just objectively looking at this draft and I'm looking at the numbers, I'm studying the film. It's really hard for me if I'm the Utah Jazz that I'm going to gamble on Noah Senge, a prospect that I have way more questions about than I would rather take that gamble than Carter Bryant. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to just argue that like this international man of mystery is worth more than probably a sure thing who projects to have a 12-year NBA career at minimum, right? Unless he gets injured. I think Carter has, beyond Cooper, among the top 12, 13 players, it's hard to imagine a player who has a higher floor than Carter. There's plenty of players that probably project to have a higher ceiling than him, but I don't think many of them have a higher floor. Anyways, I seem to be lagging for some reason, and I don't understand why. We have been live streaming for 2 hours and 47 minutes. And this live went all over the place. We simmed out an entire Raptors season, an off season. We won a championship with a Carter Bryant buzzer beater. We talked about the NBA Eastern Conference and Western Conference playoffs. We talked about finals predictions. We talked about what went wrong for the Nuggets. And we talked a little bit about the draft. It was a little bit all over the place. I'll apologize. But tomorrow I will be on the panel. And then shortly after the panel, I will be doing my live stream with Ersin. He is, as you remember, based in Europe. So we have to structure live streams around the middle of the day. So look out for that live stream. It will be all about the draft. And it will be, I want to say, between 3 and 3:30. I am also working on what I think is going to be the coolest live stream in PENSARE basketball history. I am seeking really smart draft people to come on, maybe a panel of 8 people, and take on the role of 2 or 3 teams and you'll have a co-general manager that you can consult with on trades that they're not involved with. So hypothetically, let's just say it's me, and let's call the other people A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. So let's say me and B, I'm the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, but he's the assistant general manager of the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm also the general manager, because I'm not having 30 people up here. I'm also the general manager of the Spurs. So let's just say the Spurs and the Hawks have to make a deal. Then I would have to make a deal with my assistant general manager where he would act as the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks and I would be the Spurs. Make sense? So it would be really cool. And what we would do is 5-minute rounds to mock out the entire first round with trades. So that's the cool part. With trades. And so let's just say hypothetically, the fourth pick comes up, and not the fourth pick. Let's say the sixth pick comes up. No, the seventh pick comes up to the New Orleans Pelicans, and I'm sitting at 9 as the general manager of the Toronto Raptors. Spoiler alert, I will 100% be the general manager of the Raptors. And let's just say, I don't know, Erson or, Thomas or, someone like that is the general manager of the Pelicans. Well, then I can call him up and be like, hey, I would like to offer you Grady Dick for number 7, hypothetically, something like that. And it'll be up to him to say yes or no. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that we're going to offer that trade, but I think it could get really, really fun to see that all happen in live in real time. And then there'll be a clock, 5 minutes, you're on the clock, so we have a timer going, and so it doesn't drag out for like 4 hours. But it'd be really, really cool to see what that simulation would look like. I am more or less selfishly wanting to do this. I mean, selflessly, I want to do this because I think it'd be fire content, and I think it'd be great thought exercise and a great time to learn and sort of see how this draft could really shake out. I think it'll also be a really fantastic way to expose, I'm not saying exactly, but to some extent, just how some of these conversations go down the stretch, right? Because all these people they're going to have their favorite prospect, their prospect is falling, blah, blah, blah. We'll probably have a surprise faller where nobody's really that high on him. So, yeah, I just think it'd be really cool. But selfishly, I want to test my general manager's skills because I've always believed for most of my life that I would be really, really good at this. So I think it'd be really, really cool. So, yeah. And that's why I want the field to be strong. I don't want a whole bunch of dummies up here who can be easily fleeced. Will you also do scenarios for 39? Yeah. The second round will probably do sped up 2 minutes. So you have 2 minutes between. And we'll sum out the entire 60, and everyone will have their own big board. And we'll ask everyone to, maybe we can make a contest out of it. How would you like that? It would be cool. A contest out of it to say which general manager did the best. It could be like a GM contest, right? I think that would be super fire. And so we make a poll. I can't win, so it'll have to be whoever does second best. Ha, ha, ha. But I can't win. So whoever wins second best wins a prize of like $100, $50, something like that. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. So we can call it the Hunger Games GM edition. I have no idea. I haven't watched Hunger Games. I reference it all the time. Final thought. My girlfriend is in Florida. I think I mentioned that a few. Utility sports would be an interesting guest. I actually follow that dude on X. Maybe I'll hit him up. That would be cool. Wait. I think I do. Would the Pals accept RJ and a first for Trey Murphy or RJ plus Mobo plus first round pick? RJ and a first for Trey Murphy. Are you talking about pick number 9? Maybe. If you're talking about some random future hypothetical first, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. As a longtime Trey Murphy booster, I was actually pretty disappointed with his defense this past year. His shooting is immense. Durability worried me a little bit. Could be the Pelicans' curse. He's a really great athlete, great shooter. But I used to believe that he was a really great defender, and last year I don't really feel like he was a great defender. I really like Herb Jones a lot. I think he shot the ball pretty well. His jump shot has come around. He's a little bit older. I think he's one of the most underrated defenders in the league, but because they lose so much, nobody talks about him. Like, I don't hear Herb Jones talked about at all. Like, it's almost like if you're one of these 7, 8 terrible teams, nobody talks about any of your players. Like, unless you're like a superstar hype, superstar who has a huge following like LaMelo Ball. Like, nobody cares. So RJ for Herb swap, maybe. Well, the contracts don't add up. RJ makes 27 million, Herb makes like 12. I feel like that tends to happen when good defenders are just playing losing basketball daily. I think that's fair too. So, but I mean, there's no excuse for how bad Trey Murphy was as a defender this past year. And it's not like he was some great defender before. He was a decent defender, if that makes sense. Like, he was a decent defender. And again, people really want to ignore the context. Like, there were a lot of young players playing for them. There weren't a lot of great players playing for them. So, yeah. SP said, RJ, Quickly, Grady, Ochai, number 9, plus picks for Giannis and Kuzma's contract. RJ, Quickly, Grady, Ochai, 9, plus more picks for Giannis and Kuzma's contract. Okay, so the only way that deal works is, number 1, you're probably tossing in one more asset, probably Jacoby. And when you say more picks, it's all your picks. So it'll probably be number 9 plus 2027 plus 2029 plus 2031. So that's 3 picks. And then you'll offer swap rights in 2026, 2028, and 2030. The problem with this is you're going to be better than them. So the swap doesn't help, right? The Stepien rule, thankfully, has prevented you from trading picks in back-to-back years. So you wouldn't be able to trade your pick. Like, you can't just trade 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029. You can't do that. You used to be able to do that. You can't do that anymore. So the problem here is your swaps aren't worth a lot when you have Giannis and Scotty, because they would project you to be a good team for the next 3-4 years, right? The one team that really fucked up here is a team that owns, I don't remember who owns, but whoever owns the Dallas Mavericks future picks, they thought they were sitting on a gold mine. Those picks are now worth half of what they used to be worth because they got Cooper Flag. That's just how this valuation thing works. Anyways, we're closing in on almost 3 hours. I got to get to bed. I'll talk to y'all later. Please make sure to like this video. I would very much appreciate it, the 182 of you who are still in here. Thank you for putting up with our technical difficulties. I'll see if in the morning I can clip that part out, because that's probably very annoying to whoever watches this after. But yeah, this live was a complete smorgasbord of just hangs. And we only got one caller, but it was a dope caller. So appreciate y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.